subscribe, like the video, and, if possible, join Patreon. But if you don't have much money, you can support the channel by watching the novels on euroaudiobooks.com. Remember that you can participate in the polls so that your favorite novel gets published for free.
Aunt Mia suddenly caught a glimpse of a head sticking out of the kitchen door, and the owner of the head was looking at the direction of the door with bright eyes. Looking at the figure, Aunt Mia had a bad feeling in her heart. No way. Chapter 22. Everything goes to the reverse. It's so strange. I can't see the soul of that child. At this time, at the kitchen door of the rich hostess tavern, Sheer, with gray hair, was looking at the direction of the tavern door with curiosity. She was busy in the kitchen just now and didn't come out, but when she passed by the kitchen door, she casually glanced and found a figure with no light on the soul. She didn't react when she saw this figure, but she reacted the next second. But when she reacted, the figure had disappeared. However, Sheer knew that she was definitely not wrong. Just now, she did see a person whose soul she couldn't see at all. You know, she's the best at seeing through other people's souls. Even if it is a god, she can see a little bit of his soul. After all, this is because she has eyes that can see through the soul. And her name is Freya, the god of love and beauty. As long as it is life, there is a soul, and the soul will emit light. But these lights vary from person to person. What she likes most is the soul that emits brilliant light. So, she has been collecting some lower world humans whose souls emit brilliant light to join her. But this is the first time she has encountered a being who can see the soul, but has no soul light at all. In theory, only the dead have no soul light, because the soul disappears. But the figure just now obviously cannot be a dead person. The dead will not move. For a moment, Sierra's heart aroused strong interest, regardless of her current work, and quickly ran out of the kitchen and ran to the door of the tavern. However, when she walked out of the door of the tavern, she scanned the streets on both sides, but it was pitch black and no one could be seen. Did it disappear so quickly? Standing at the door of the tavern, Sierra murmured in a low voice. "What's wrong, Sierra?" Sienna's friend, Lou, saw Sienna's actions and followed her out. Just heard Sienna's words and spoke with concern. "Lou, do you know who the person who bought the barbecue just now is?" Hearing Lou's words, Sierra remembered that Lou had just contacted the person just now and asked hurriedly. "It's a compatriot, but I don't know him." Lou was slightly stunned and then answered truthfully. "Elf." Sierra heard the words, murmured in a low voice, and didn't say anything else. After smiling, she walked inside. Behind him, Lou frowned slightly when he saw Sierra like this. I always felt that Sierra was hiding something. But she didn't care too much. Her brows loosened, followed Sierra into the tavern, and continued her work. The rich hostess tavern was busy until after 12 o'clock, before sending the last guest away and closing. The tavern waiter walked back and forth in the tavern, cleaning up the tables, chairs, and tableware. Aunt Mia called Sierra over. "Which elf boy do you like?" Looking at Sierra, Aunt Mia's face was very complicated, and she said, "Well, that boy is very special." Sierra replied with a smile. After getting this answer, Aunt Mia was slightly silent and finally said nothing, shook her head, and joined the cleaning team. "This is much more interesting than Soul Glory." Sierra ignored Mia and looked towards a gate. A faint smile appeared on her face, and she whispered. Chinching didn't know that he was targeted by Sheer just because he went to the hostess tavern of Fengzhou. And the reason for targeting was so weird. Chinching knew that Sheer was in the hostess tavern of Fengzhou, but Chinching didn't care about Sheer's existence, because Chinching didn't think that he would be targeted by Sheer. After all, he had the world's grace, and Sheer, that is, Freya, could not see through a situation. However, Chinching didn't expect that it was precisely because he had the world's grace and was blessed by the world that Freya's eyes that could see through the light of the soul could not see the light of his soul at all. It was precisely because she couldn't see the light of her soul that Freya targeted him instead. If he knew, Chinching would definitely be speechless, because he really didn't expect this. The information of the world's grace told Chinching that other gods could not see through his information, but did not tell Chinching that they could not see through it in this way. Even the soul light disappeared. She was so eccentric. Freya, a god who could see through the soul light, met such an eccentric person. It would be strange if she didn't pay attention to him. In Morningstar's understanding, the existence of the world's grace would prevent him from being noticed by any god. I didn't expect it to turn out like this. But Morningstar didn't know these. At this time, Morningstar had returned to the library. When he returned to the library, Morningstar saw Hestia sitting at the door. "Ah, Morningstar, you're finally back. I thought you were not back." Seeing Hestia, before Morningstar could speak, Hestia quickly ran to Morningstar and directly blamed her. Obviously, he was worried about her safety, so he ran out to find her. But listening to Hestia's words, it seemed more like she had just returned from the dungeon. And Hestia found that she was not in the library so late, thinking that she had not come back from the dungeon and was worried about her safety. She wanted to say something, but seeing that Hestia was concerned about her safety, Chinching shook her head and didn't say what she wanted to say. "Let's go, it's late. Go back and rest." Chinching stretched out her hand, patted Hestia's head in Hestia's unhappy eyes, and said softly. At this time, Hestia saw something from Chinching's clothes, and then seemed to think of something, and the whole person suddenly became a little embarrassed. "You came back a long time ago, and then found that I was not there. So you want to find me? It's good that you know. Next time you go out at night, leave a note for me. Don't let me look for you everywhere like a headless fly." Chinching glanced at her and said lightly, "Sorry. I will definitely leave a note for you next time." Hestia was even more embarrassed and apologized with a laugh. "Well, let's go in." Chinching nodded and did not ask Hestia what she did at night. This was not his business. Yes, Chapter 23. A similar past, Sierra Froey, after eating the barbecue that he packed with Hestia, Chinching returned to his bedroom. In the bedroom, Chinching rarely rested directly, but lay quietly on his bed, ready to see the system's drift bottle receiving pattern. In the past 3 days, he received a drift bottle every night. If he received it again today, then the receiving pattern of the drift bottle would probably be at night. Maybe he could get a drift bottle every night. However, Chinching stared at the ceiling with his eyes open and waited until the early morning, but did not wait for the familiar prompt sound. "It seems that I guessed wrong." After whispering, Chinching slowly closed his eyes and fell asleep. The next morning, early in the morning, Chinching's biological clock made Chinching wake up as usual. Hestia woke up quite early today. When Chinching came out of the room after washing up, he saw that Hestia had woken up long ago and had already packed up and was in high spirits. "You woke up quite early today." Looking at Hestia, Chinching said with a smile, I had something to tell you last night, but it was too late, so I didn't. Get up early today, or you'll disappear again." Hestia said with a smile. "What's the matter?" Morningstar continued to walk outside without stopping, asking at the same time. I'll go ask Hephaestus for help. If you want to buy equipment in the future, go to Hephaestus and tell him my name. Hephaestus will arrange it, give you the best equipment, and give you a discount." Hestia said with her hands behind her back, and she was jumping up and down. After saying this, Morningstar paused and stood there in a daze. "What's wrong?" Seeing Morningstar stop, Hestia looked over with some confusion. "Hestia, why are you so nice to me?" Morningstar did not answer immediately, but stared at Hestia for a few seconds, and then slowly spoke. "Potions and equipment, these two things that are absolutely indispensable for adventurers. Hestia is trying to help herself." Morningstar couldn't figure out why. "It's okay for Mai. Introducing myself to Mai can also be regarded as bringing business to Mai. It's a win-win situation for both of me and Mai. But it's different for Hephaestus. Hephaestus is not sure of business, and because Hestia is not enterprising, Hephaestus drove Hestia out, and she is still angry with Hestia. But now Hestia went to Hephaestus specifically for me, and she succeeded. You know, in the original book, although Hephaestus is Hestia's best friend, and the relationship between the two is as good as sisters, Hephaestus doesn't care about Hestia at all in this regard, and wants Hestia to be self-reliant. It's obviously impossible for Hephaestus to agree to ask Hephaestus to take care of herself, but Hestia succeeded. Chinching doesn't know what Hestia has paid to help herself. Chinching is puzzled. Why does Hestia help herself so much? I had clearly rejected Hestia's invitation to create a family together before. Hestia was also stunned when she heard what Morningstar said, and then a bright smile appeared on her face. Because I see the shadow of my past in you, Morningstar. Hearing this, Morningstar seemed to remember something. Hestia seemed to be a homebody. Since her birth, she had been staying alone in her temple, without any contact with anyone. It was not until the appearance of Hephaestus that Hestia gradually connected with the heaven. It seemed that her situation was a replica of Hestia's past. Although she was no longer opposed to contact with other people, before Hestia appeared, she had been alone and had no contact with this world. Standing there in silence for a long time, Morningstar said, "Thank you," softly. "Thank you, Hestia." "You're welcome." Morningstar did not stay in the library for too long. He made 2 breakfasts, ate breakfast with Hestia, and left the library with Hestia's blessing. "Be careful on the way, Morningstar." Morningstar did not answer, but waved his hand and then walked towards the direction of the Hephaestus family residence to get his weapons. Nothing happened when he took the weapon. Chinching got his weapon back smoothly and walked towards the Tower of Babel. However, when passing by the rich hostess, Chinching was stopped. "Adventurer, was the barbecue delicious last night?" The gray-haired girl with made hair said to Chinching with a smile. "Delicious." Chinching nodded and replied, "I have to say that the barbecue Chinching bought last night was really delicious." However, Chinching was a little speechless when he thought about this guy's cooking. The casually made food is delicious, but the seriously made food can break the abnormal resistance of the second-level adventurer. "That was made by Sierra. Thank you for your affirmation, adventurer." "By the way, Sierra is called Sierra. What is your name, adventurer?" Hearing Sierra's words, Chinching felt a little relieved. "Good guy, you did it. Fortunately, you made it casually at that time. If you did it seriously, wouldn't I be poisoned to death?" Even Lou and others couldn't stand the lunch Sierra made carefully. How could I stand it? This has to mention the gold content of the original protagonist, who was fine. "My name is Chinching. Please give me more advice." Facing Sierra's chat, Chinching didn't think too much, nor did he think that he was being targeted, and replied with a smile. After all, the grace of his own world has a hidden function, and the goddess of beauty Freya can't see his situation at all, and naturally can't target him. Until Sierra escaped from behind with a wrapped lunchbox. Chinching's face changed slightly. "Mr. Chinching, if you don't mind, please take this lunchbox with you. I hope Mr. Chinching will visit the hostess of Finyu often in the future." Looking at Sierra with a smile, Chinching's eyes twitched slightly. "What's going on?" Chapter 24. Shear's Chat. The god of war's blessing Freya, goddess of beauty, sends lunchboxes. This is the treatment of the protagonist Belle. Although it is in the name of inviting more patronage, Chinching knows it. In the original book, Sierra sent lunchboxes in this name, but in fact, she was targeting Belle. And now, Sierra sent lunchboxes to herself? Is this targeting me? Even if my soul is brilliant and I have the ability of world grace, Freya, goddess of beauty, can't see it. Could it be because of the existence of world grace, Freya, goddess of beauty, can't see my soul clearly? And because she can't see my soul clearly, she is interested in me? Chinching's brain turned quickly and soon thought of a possibility. "Thank you, but I won't accept the reward without merit. So forget it." While the brain was working at high speed, the real Chinching rejected Sierra's kindness and then slipped away quickly. "Allah, it's him." Sierra was not angry at being rejected by Chinching. Looking at Chinching's back, her eyes narrowed slightly. She did not go back last night, but lived in the dormitory of the Feng Rao Hostess Tavern. Because Lu was the last person to contact Chinching last night, she stayed in the dormitory to ask Lu about Chinching's information, such as Chinching's appearance. Unexpectedly, she got the news from Lu that Chinching passed by the Tower of Babel from the entrance of the Feng Rao Hostess Tavern yesterday morning. After knowing this, she thought about it and came up with an idea. She prepared a lunchbox early in the morning and then swept the entrance of the tavern to see if she could wait for Chinching to appear. Unexpectedly, Chinching really appeared. She followed the plan to send a lunchbox to Chinching and chatted with Chinching on the pretext of attracting customers. Although Chinching did not accept it, Sierra did not care. After all, They just met, and this reaction is normal. As long as she finds opportunities to contact Qinxing more in the future, Qinxing will accept her sooner or later. At that time, she will study Qinxing's situation carefully. On the other hand, after leaving the Fengrao Hostess Tavern, Qinxing quickly rushed towards the direction of the Tower of Babel. System, what is the situation of my world grace? Morningstar, who was doubting the world grace he had, asked the system in his mind. Host, the god that the world grace owner can become in the end is the king of gods, which is more powerful than any god in this world. Therefore, no matter what god it is impossible to see through the host's situation. The goddess of beauty Freya can see the soul brilliance of other gods, but cannot see through the host. In the eyes of the goddess of beauty Freya, the host's soul should not be able to see a single ray of brilliance. Facing Morningstar's inquiry, the system gave an answer. Hearing this answer, Morningstar's eyes twitched slightly. In other words, his guess was right because his world grace was too advanced, but it was found that something was wrong. He was now being targeted by the goddess of beauty Freya, like the protagonist Belle. This is troublesome. Morningstar now just wants to grow up quietly and doesn't want to be disturbed. But being targeted by the goddess of beauty Freya, it is absolutely impossible for him to grow quietly. Do I have the ability to resist now? Thinking of this, Qinxing couldn't help but sigh. However, it was just a sigh, and Qinxing soon put the matter aside. There was nothing he could do if he was targeted. Only by growing up as soon as possible could he deal with the troubles that followed. Thinking of this, Qinxing couldn't help but speed up and rushed toward the Tower of Babel. He soon arrived at the Tower of Babel and entered the dungeon. As soon as he entered the dungeon, Qinxing directly turned on the Reincarnation Eye mode, quickly flew through the passage, and rushed towards the middle level. Just like yesterday, it took more than an hour for Qinxing to reach the 15th floor smoothly. As soon as he landed, Qinxing contacted the Reincarnation Eye mode and saved his energy. After taking a look at the familiar passage, Qinxing took a step and walked, waiting for the welcome ceremony of the dungeon. However, after walking for several minutes, Qinxing did not welcome the welcome ceremony of the dungeon, but instead welcomed the system prompt. Ding! You have a new drifting bottle. Please check it. Drifting bottle? It appeared in broad daylight. Open it. Qinxing was a little surprised when he heard the system's prompt, but he didn't stay surprised for too long and chose to open it directly. Ding! The drifting bottle has been opened. Congratulations to the host for obtaining the blessing of the God of War. The blessing of the God of War. The blessing from the world of Re. 0. The owner can obtain the corresponding weapon use skills and use various weapons proficiently. Seeing this newly acquired ability, Qinxing's eyes widened slightly. Good guy, remember this thing is Lai Outyan's blessing. It actually appeared here. Without any hesitation, Qinxing directly put this blessing on himself. No change. After using the blessing of the God of War on himself, Qinxing began to look forward to this ability. But after waiting for more than 10 seconds, his body did not change, which made Qinxing a little confused. However, Qinxing didn't have too many events to be confused, because just when Qinxing was confused, the dungeon seemed to finally remember himself as an intruder and began a welcome ceremony. Minotaur broke out of the wall and the ground, staring at Qinxing. Seeing this, Qinxing also grasped the long sword at his waist and pulled it out directly. At this moment, a lot of information suddenly emerged in Qinxing's mind. In just 1 second, Qinxing received all this information. At this time, Qinxing understood the effect of the blessing of the God of War that he had just obtained. The blessing of the God of War needs to be held in his hand to take effect. And the moment he held the long sword just now, many exquisite fighting skills for using the long sword emerged in his mind. It's really a good blessing. Feeling that he had mastered so many fighting skills in an instant, Qinxing couldn't help but curl up the corners of his mouth, muttering in his heart. The next moment, Qinxing flashed and took the initiative to attack. Ayo! Chapter 25, Powerful Combat Techniques. New magic, the Golden Finger, is indeed worthy of being called a Golden Finger. Before, Qinxing was a latecomer, a wild man. crossing the river by feeling the stones. But now, with the blessing of the god of war, Chinching has become a martial artist who has practiced hard for decades under the guidance of a famous master and has high martial arts skills. The blessing of the god of war allowed Chinching to master extremely powerful sword skills in an instant. It is simply not comparable to what Chinching had slowly explored through fighting before. After gaining the fighting skills of using the sword under the blessing of the god of war, Chinching realized how crude the fighting skills he had explored in the previous battles were, and they could not be compared with the skills he has mastered now. Even in the battle, the wear and tear of the weapon has improved a lot. Yesterday, Chinching fought with the Minotaur, under the siege of several Minotaurs without using sneak attacks. Chinching needed more than a minute to kill a Minotaur. But now, facing the Minotaur that surrounded him, Morningstar found the weakness of the Minotaur in just one round and chopped one of them with one sword. This feeling is incredible. After chopped the Minotaur with one sword, Morningstar quickly retreated from the encirclement and murmured in a low voice. The next second, Morningstar flashed again and appeared in front of another Minotaur almost in the direction of teleportation and chopped it with one sword. The siege of the monsters would be disrupted as long as one monster was missing. Morningstar took this opportunity to attack. When Morningstar's attack was chopped out, the Minotaur was unable to react and was directly hit. The powerful slash fell down, directly cutting the Minotaur in half, and the huge upper body fell diagonally to one side, gradually turning into ashes. Seeing that Chinching had killed two of his companions so easily, the remaining three Minotaur seemed to be terrified and took a few steps back. Then they turned around and ran away in Chinching's surprised eyes. Chinching was stunned when he saw this scene. His offensive actually scared the Minotaur. This situation only happened in the monster feast that the Loki family encountered when they returned from the failed expedition in the original book. Dion and Diana killed two Minotaurs in seconds, which scared dozens of Minotaurs directly, causing the Minotaur to flee to the upper level. It was because of the escape of the Minotaur that the protagonist of the original book, Belle, met the Sword Princess Ace, and the protagonist Belle was born with a yearning for this skill. I didn't expect that I would experience this kind of treatment. However, although it was an accident, Chinching didn't hesitate. With a wave of his hand, more than a dozen arrows of light appeared in front of Chinching. This is the light magic created by Morningstar last night, the light arrow, which is somewhat similar to the light feather, but is faster, much faster than the light feather, and is most suitable for dealing with enemies that are too far away. It is especially suitable for Morningstar's current situation. Because Morningstar is now in a cave with many connections, and the three Minotaur knew to escape separately, running towards one of the caves respectively. Morningstar's speed is very fast, and he can catch up with one of the Minotaur. But in this case, Morningstar will not be able to kill the other two Minotaur. The speed of the light arrow is much faster than that of Morningstar, and it can completely penetrate the three Minotaur before they enter the passage. Morningstar waved his hand, and many light arrows turned into streams of light and appeared behind the three Minotaur in an instant, directly piercing the Minotaur's body with a penetrating wound, almost like a sieve. In this case, even if the monsters have strong vitality, they can't survive. In fact, it is true. After the arrow of light pierced the three Minotaur began to burn and turned into ashes bit by bit. Only the magic stone fell on the ground, making a ding-dong sound. Chinching picked up the magic stone on the ground, then walked forward and picked up the other three magic stones. After picking up the magic stones, Chinching continued to walk. I don't know if it's because the dungeon is too big or for other reasons. Chinching went to the dungeon these days. Except for the spiral staircase at the beginning, Chinching didn't meet other adventurers. Chinching was always alone. For a whole day, Chinching's experience was no different from yesterday. If there is a difference, it is that Chinching today is particularly easy to fight because of the blessing of the god of war. However, this also leads to less combat experience that Chinching can gain. That's right, combat experience. As for combat skills, Chinching is no longer worried about this thing. With the blessing of the god of war, Chinching will master the use of any weapon and various combat skills at the first time, and they are permanent combat skills. Instead of putting down the weapon, these guys' combat skills will disappear. Of course, this is just nonsense. The only thing Chinching needs now is to fight with a large number of monsters and besiege himself with a large number of monsters, so as to gain intense combat experience. Only in this way can Chinching gain a lot of combat experience in the battle. If the number of monsters is small, Chinching can't pose a threat at all in his current situation. Chinching can kill them easily. In this way, Chinching can't get much combat experience at all. Even so, Chinching still gained a lot of combat experience today. Picking up all the magic stones on the ground, Chinching looked at the time and found that it was already past 5 o'clock in the afternoon, so he set off to return. It took more than an hour again for Chinching to return to the ground. After exchanging magic stones in the exchange and obtaining nearly 1 million Wallace again, Chinching went to the guild again and exchanged all the magic stone fragments obtained from killing monsters on the return journey in the past 2 days. Originally, I wanted to chat with Aegina, but I didn't see Aegina. Chinching had to give up and rush to the library with today's gains. Because of the blessing of the God of War, Chinching knows weapons very well and can minimize the wear and tear of weapons when dealing with monsters. So Chinching didn't need to send his weapons for maintenance today and went back to the library directly. Chapter 26: The Reason for Establishing a Family. When he returned to the library, Hestia was not there again, but this time she left a note to tell Morningstar where she went. This guy went to Hephaestus again. Knowing where this guy went, Morningstar was not worried. As long as he didn't come back too late, it would be fine. Morningstar simply washed up and went to the kitchen to prepare a dinner for himself. I have to come back early tomorrow. There's not much food left. I need to replenish it. Looking at the ingredients in the refrigerator, Morningstar muttered to himself and then closed the refrigerator door. There are refrigerators in this world, but the energy source of the refrigerator is magic stone, and I don't know who developed it. After dinner, Morningstar returned to the bedroom again and started today's update directly. Morningstar LV1 Strength, D503C6 21 Durability, D512C6 10 Dexterity, D523C6 45 Agility, D510C6 23 Magic, E456 D589 Upgrade, Optional Development Ability, Magician, Swordsman Magic Thought Body. Thought Body Clone can separate a clone that can transfer strength to fight Son of Light. Master the element of light, can manipulate light at will, and create light, attribute magic skills Rinnegan. Rinnegan Mode Silver Wheel Reincarnation Explosion Gold Wheel Reincarnation Explosion God of War's Blessing. Weapon Control 18 kinds of weapons, mastering the same superb fighting skills. Today's grace is much less than yesterday's. Sure enough, it's because I got the blessing of the God of War today, and my strength has become stronger. The monsters of the young man can't put me in a hard fight. In the fierce battle, the number of hard fights and fierce battles will be less, and my training will be correspondingly weakened. It's normal that the grace will be reduced in this case. Sure enough, the blessing of the God of War has also been captured by the world's grace. Looking at the changes in grace, seeing that the increase in grace ability value is much less than yesterday, Chinching is not too puzzled, because Chinching has already had a bottom in his heart. The improvement of grace is generally improved in training and fighting. The stronger the training intensity and the stronger the fighting intensity, the greater the improvement of grace. Of course, this is in the absence of bottlenecks. Once you fall into a bottleneck, no matter how hard you fight, it will not work. Just like the Sword Princess of Loki's family. And Chinching has enhanced his fighting skills by several levels today because of the blessing of the God of War. It is easy to deal with monsters, unlike yesterday. Only when there are too many monsters can Morningstar be in a difficult battle like yesterday. In this case, it is normal for Morningstar's grace ability value to increase. Then, Morningstar looked at the skills, and looking at the newly added skill of the God of War's blessing, Morningstar showed a look that was as expected. The previous reincarnation eyes and thoughts were captured by the world's grace, and there was no surprise in today's God of War's blessing. After reading the grace, Morningstar directly lit the grace paper and then carved the updated grace. As for the upgrade option, Morningstar didn't even look at it. Before the 5 ability values reach S at 999, Morningstar will not upgrade. After updating the grace, Morningstar leaned on the pillow, picked up the book on the bedside table, and started reading. Not long after, Morningstar heard the movement outside. After clipping the bookmark, putting the book on the bedside table, Morningstar got up and left the bedroom. After coming outside, Morningstar saw Hestia's voice. "Hey, Morningstar, I'm back." Hestia also saw Morningstar and waved to Morningstar. "Well, welcome back, Hestia." Morningstar nodded slightly and replied, then curiously asked Hestia, "Didn't you say that your godfriend Hephaestus didn't want to see you because you were not doing your job? Looking at you like this, it doesn't seem like that." Morningstar knew that Hestia was driven out by Hephaestus. Hephaestus didn't want to pay attention to Hestia, but seeing that Hestia went to Hephaestus twice in the past 2 days, Hephaestus didn't seem to want to pay attention to Hestia. I went to Hephaestus to discuss the establishment of the family. Hephaestus would naturally not see me." Hestia smiled and told the reason. Hephaestus was angry because she was half-hearted in recruiting family members and establishing the family. Now that she has taken the initiative to find Hephaestus and said that she wants to establish a family, Hephaestus will naturally not miss Hestia. Hestia went to Hephaestus tonight to ask Hephaestus to help keep an eye on the reserve adventurers who are not suitable for Hephaestus's family. That is, to find new people to join the family. "Really? That's good. Keep up the good work, Hestia." Morningstar was a little surprised when she heard this, but then nodded to encourage her. "Yeah, when the time comes, I will recruit members of the family, and after the family is established, I will let my family act with you. 2 people together will also have someone to take care of, which is better than just one." Hestia nodded and expressed her thoughts. "Is that so? In that case, you have to speed up. My improvement speed is very fast. Maybe in a few days, I will be upgraded. I won't stay in the upper level at that time." Hearing what Hestia said, Morningstar was slightly stunned, but then he laughed. There is nothing wrong with Hestia's idea. After all, new adventurers have a long rookie period, which means they will stay at the LV1 level for a long time. Adventurers at LV1 are active in the upper level. In Hestia's eyes, she is a new adventurer, and if nothing unexpected happens, she may be a new adventurer in 1 or 2 years. And she is now creating a family and letting the members of the family act with her, which is completely no problem. However, to disappoint Hestia, her grace is improving too fast. It is estimated that she will be upgraded to LV2 in a few days. Moreover, even if she is not upgraded, she is now in the middle level and cannot be in the upper level. "Don't worry, I will create a family as soon as possible." Hestia nodded seriously and said confidently. As for Morningstar's words that he will be upgraded soon, Hestia did not take it to heart at all. "By the way, Chinxing, I need to go out to look for clan members these days. Can the library be open every other day? Just half the salary." "No problem, you decide. No need to reduce the salary." "Really? Thank you so much." Chapter 27, Aegina's Kindness. For the next 4 days, Morningstar was active on the 15th floor. It's almost time. I should go back." After killing the last Minotaur, Morningstar began to pick up magic stones and prepared to leave the dungeon. 3 days later, Morningstar's ability values have been upgraded to S level, but they have not reached the limit. Today is another day of fighting. I will probably reach the limit when I go back to update in the evening and can upgrade. By the way, Morningstar's luck seems to be not very good in these 3 days. He has not received a single drift bottle. Although there is no new drift bottle, Morningstar has developed a lot of light attribute magic in the past few days. Morningstar now has 10 types of light attribute magic: attack, defense, and auxiliary. Morningstar did not continue to develop, but these magics are enough for Morningstar to use now. There is no need to waste time to develop other ones. With the reincarnation mode turned on, Morningstar quickly returned to the ground. After exchanging the magic stones obtained in the middle level for Wallace at the exchange, Chinching took some magic stone fragments to the guild, exchanged them for Wallace, and then found Aegina to make up for the lessons. During these 3 days, Chinching would come back earlier and come to the guild to exchange information about the dungeon with Aegina. It was precisely because he came back early that Chinching's ability value did not reach the limit of LV1 in 4 days. Otherwise, according to the previous improvement speed, it would have reached the limit long ago. In 3 days, Chinching asked Aegina for information about deeper floors in a cycle. Aegina didn't want to tell Chinching at first, worried that Chinching would be too ambitious. However, after Chinching repeatedly assured her, and Chinching had nothing to do every time he came back, Aegina still found out all the information Chinching asked about and told Chinching. It was also because although Chinching asked for information about deeper floors, he did not be too ambitious. Aegina also knew that Chinching did not act rashly, so she told Chinching the information with confidence. Now Aegina is no longer worried about Chinching asking for information about deeper floors. So today Chinching is going to ask Aegina for information about the middle level, and Aegina did not refuse. After taking the information about the middle level, she started to make up lessons for Chinching. You just became an adventurer not long ago, and you want information about the middle level. If it weren't for the fact that you are really just curious about the information and will not act rashly, I really wouldn't give you this information. In the small compartment of the guild, Aegina explained the information about the middle level to Chinching while saying, "Thank you, Aegina." Chinching smiled and thanked her. "By the way, have you been wearing these equipment to the dungeon these days?" Aegina nodded, then looked at Chinching's body, and then asked with a frown. Chinching's weapon has been in the scabbard, so Aegina didn't know that Chinching's weapon was the 3rd level. But Chinching's defensive equipment was too shabby, even she couldn't stand it. "Well, what's wrong?" Chinching nodded and replied, "For Morningstar, defensive equipment is really nothing. Because Morningstar is getting stronger in all aspects, his physique is improving along with his strength. When monsters of the same level attack Morningstar, at most Morningstar will suffer minor injuries. Morningstar's situation is the same as Otis. He doesn't need defensive equipment to defend himself. Morningstar knows the situation very well, but it doesn't mean Aina knows Morningstar's situation." Hearing what Morningstar said, and thinking of the amount of magic stones that Morningstar has exchanged in the past few days, Aina suddenly had a plan in her heart. Most of Morningstar's gains from going to the dungeon are too small, so he can't afford better equipment. Just think of it as me supporting you. "Morningstar, come to Rebel Square tomorrow afternoon, and I'll take you to Babel Tower to buy a set of defensive equipment," Aina said to Morningstar with her frown loosened. Aina, I don't need these." Hearing Aina's words, Morningstar immediately refused. "Okay, stop talking, it's settled. Come back early tomorrow afternoon. I'll wait for you at Rebel Square around 4 o'clock. Aegina interrupted Chinching's words and said very firmly. In Aegina's opinion, Chinching was just a teenager with self-esteem, so he didn't want to accept help from others. After that, Aegina left with the information, leaving Chinching alone in the compartment. Opening his mouth, Chinching wanted to say something, but in the end he took back what he was about to say. Okay, Aegina wanted to help him out of her kindness, so he accepted this kindness and then thought of a way to repay Aegina. Shaking his head slightly, Chinching also stood up, walked out of the compartment, and left the Pantheon. After leaving the Pantheon, Chinching did not return to the library, but went to the Hephaestus family. Because of the blessing of the god of war, Chinching had a deep understanding of weapons, so he would try to reduce the wear and tear of weapons as much as possible during battle. Therefore, in the past few days, although Morningstar's weapon has been worn out, it has not yet reached the point where it needs maintenance. However, after not maintaining it for a few days, the weapon in Morningstar's hand also needs maintenance. If it is not maintained, Morningstar is worried that he will not be able to hold on until he comes back tomorrow, even if he needs to come back early tomorrow. According to the situation when he came before, after entering the base camp of the Hephaestus clan, Morningstar went directly to the forging workshop where the dwarf uncle who had maintained his weapon before was. "Huh, is it you, kid? Come to maintain your weapon again." I don't know how this dwarf uncle remembered Morningstar. Obviously, when Morningstar came here before, he didn't even raise his head, but today Morningstar came and recognized Morningstar at a glance. "Well, please, uncle." Morningstar nodded. "Someone wants to maintain your weapon. Come with me." Uncle Buck nodded, but he was not prepared to accept this maintenance commission. Instead, he stood up and said to Morningstar, and then walked out with his hand behind his back. This situation surprised Chinching a little, but Chinching didn't say anything, just quietly followed the dwarf uncle. It wasn't until the dwarf uncle took Chinching to a forging workshop and saw a familiar but unfamiliar figure in the forging workshop that Chinching opened his mouth slightly. Kun, Chapter 28, Tsubaki Co-Brand. The exclusive forger. That's right. The person who appeared in front of Morningstar was the leader of Hephaestus's family, Tsubaki Co-Brand, the first master craftsman of Oreo. Tsubaki wanted to see me? Oh, you're here. Tsubaki also saw the arrival of Morningstar and the others, and immediately greeted them happily. I've brought the people here, and I'll leave the commission to you. The dwarf uncle nodded to Tsubaki, then turned around and left, leaving Morningstar here. Excuse me, what do you want to see me for? Looking at Tsubaki's enthusiastic attitude, Morningstar asked with some doubts. I have no intersection with Tsubaki. Could it be that Hestia told Hephaestus about her existence, and then Tsubaki knew about it and wanted to see her? It shouldn't be possible. Although Hestia asked Hephaestus to take care of her, there was no need to do this. Nice to meet you, Tsubaki Co-Brand. You can just call me Tsubaki. What's your name? Tsubaki nodded, but did not tell the purpose of inviting Chinching over. Instead, he introduced himself and asked Chinching's name. Chinching. Chinching nodded slightly and said his name. Chinching. I will call you Chinching from now on. Chinching, where is your weapon? Let me see it. Tsubaki nodded, and then his eyes fell on the weapon on Chinching's waist. Chinching was still a little confused, but he pulled out the long sword from his waist and handed it over. Tsubaki took it and observed it carefully. The more he looked, the more satisfied Tsubaki's expression became. Sure enough, you take good care of your weapon. This weapon has experienced a lot of battles, but it is only worn to this extent. Chinching, let me be your exclusive forger. After carefully observing Morningstar's weapon for a while, Chun looked up and said to Morningstar. Morningstar was stunned and didn't say anything. He just looked at Chun with a puzzled look as if asking why. Why would Chun, the first master craftsman in Oreo, take the initiative to find an adventurer like himself who uses a third-level weapon? If you want to be a dedicated blacksmith, you should also look for a first-level adventurer, right? I like weapons very much. Nowadays, adventurers don't take good care of their weapons. I have seen the weapons you sent over a few days ago. You take good care of your weapons, right? I'm optimistic about you. However, I originally thought that your care for weapons was only to the extent of the past few days. But today, it seems that you really care about your weapons. There are so many traces of battle on it, but the degree of wear and tear on the weapons is only this degree. If it were someone else, it would have been damaged long ago if it were not an immortal weapon. I like your care for weapons very much. Originally, I just wanted to help you maintain your weapons. But I have changed my mind now. Let me be your exclusive forger. Given your situation, you should treat the weapons I forge well. It is the best choice for the weapons to be handed over to adventurers like you. Looking at Chinching's puzzled expression, Tsubaki could more or less guess what Chinching was thinking. After placing the long sword on the workbench beside him, Tsubaki explained with a smile. For forgers, weapons and equipment can be said to occupy half of their lives. For Chun, equipment is her life. It is a very lucky thing for a forger to be able to hand over his weapon to someone who loves the weapon. Because in Oreo, such a person is almost like looking for a needle in a haystack, and it is difficult to meet. Many forgers will even be sad because their forged weapons are damaged by the improper use of adventurers. For example, when Tiona of the Loki family was on an expedition, her weapon Urga was corroded by a new type of monster. After returning and informing the forgers of the Gabernui family about this, the forgers of the Gabernui family, who participated in the creation of Tiona's weapon Urga, felt like the sky had fallen. And meeting a person like Morningstar who loves his weapons, Chun naturally has a good impression. So she proposed to take over the commission of Morningstar's weapon maintenance a few days ago. But today, seeing how much Morningstar cares for his weapons is really beyond her imagination. From her perspective, it can be seen that Morningstar's weapons have experienced at least hundreds of very fierce battles. And the collision of the weapons was also very serious. If it were other adventurers, after such a battle, their weapons would have been damaged long ago and would not need maintenance at all. But although Chunxing's weapons were worn out, they could be restored through maintenance. What this meant, Chun naturally knew. It was also a blessing for Chun to be able to hand over her weapons to such an adventurer. After listening to Chun's explanation, Chinching was slightly enlightened and nodded in understanding, although he didn't know much about the situation of the blacksmith. But Chinching, who had read many novels in his previous life, could more or less understand the idea that the blacksmith wanted his weapons to be handed over to someone who loved the weapons. If this happened a few days ago, Chinching would really feel embarrassed, because he didn't know much about weapons and didn't take good care of them. The reason for that was entirely because he hoped to reduce the wear and tear of the weapons as much as possible so that he could fight longer. But now, Chinching really said so. The blessing of the god of war made Chinching very familiar with weapons, and his understanding of weapons also made Chinching have a special feeling for weapons, and he would naturally take care of his weapons. How about it? Do you want to sign a contract with me? Looking at Chinching's reaction, Chun smiled and spoke again. Then please give me more advice, Chun. Facing Chun's repeated questioning, Chinching smiled and nodded and stretched out his hand to Chun. Ah, please take care of me in the future. Chun stretched out his hand and shook Chinching's hand. Please leave your weapon here and come back tomorrow to get it. I promise to maintain it perfectly. After releasing his hand, Chun turned around and looked at the long sword on the workbench, stretched out his hand and gently stroked the sword body, and murmured as if talking to himself. Well, then I'll leave it to you. Chinching nodded and asked, Well, leave it to me. Chun patted his chest and said turbulently, Morning Star, come on, follow me to my office. Let's sign an exclusive contract. Chun didn't notice Morning Star's gaze and turned to walk towards the door. Seeing this, Morning Star followed. The two soon came to an office suitable for blacksmiths and signed an exclusive contract between blacksmiths and adventurers in the office. Chapter 29. Breaking the boundary and making a clear statement, however. Before leaving, Chinching specifically asked Chun not to reveal his affairs to anyone. After all, if Hephaestus knew of her existence, Hestia would probably know about it. Although Chun was a little surprised, she nodded and agreed. After all, it was just a small matter, nothing big. When Chinching bought a large amount of potions from Mai before, he also asked Mai and Naza. Although he didn't know why Chinching concealed the fact that he bought a large amount of potions, they both promised Chinching that they would not tell anyone about it. After leaving Hephaestus's family, Chinching returned to the library. The library was not closed at this time, but there were not many people in the library, only a few. And Hestia rarely read books today, but put her chin on the counter of the cashier with a look of despair on her face. Chinching knew why Hestia was like this. During these 4 days, Hestia ran around outside for 2 days, but she didn't fool anyone. Hestia is now in a state of doubt about her life. She didn't expect that recruiting a family would be so difficult. Are you okay? Hestia, looking at Hestia's appearance, Chinching asked with concern. I'm fine. Chinching, go and rest first. Let me be quiet. Hestia looked at Chinching blankly, waved her hand, and said weakly. Seeing this, Chinching didn't disturb Hestia. After looking at Hestia again, Chinching walked towards the inner courtyard. Back to his bedroom, Chinching washed up as usual and then started his grace update today. Morningstar LV1 Strength, S933 SS 1046 Durability, S944 SS 1065 Dexterity, S955 SS 1023 Agility, S966 SS 1089 Magic, S977 SS 1100 Upgrade, Optional Development Ability, Magician, Swordsman Magic Thought Body. Thought Body Clone can separate a clone that could transfer strength to fight Son of Light. Master the element of light, can manipulate light at will and create light. Attribute Magic Skills Reincarnation Eye. Reincarnation I Mode Silver Wheel Reincarnation Explosion Gold Wheel Reincarnation Explosion God of War's Blessing. Weapon Control Master all kinds of weapons. Superb combat skills. Looking at the changes in the Grace ability value, Morningstar blinked slightly, but was not too shocked in his heart. Regarding the changes in his Grace today, Chinching has 2 guesses in his heart. The first is that the ability value has reached the limit of S999. It has reached the bottleneck period. The second is to break the boundary, enter a new field from S, and reach SS. The ability value reaches S999, which is the highest value that the ability value can reach since records. Alpheus seems to have not made it public, so others don't know. The Fierce Oda's talent is strong enough. He has trained his ability value to S999, but he is also trapped in this value. Since the appearance of God's grace, only the protagonist Bell and Bell's Aunt Alphea have reached it in the entire Oreo. And Chinching. Chinching is too confident in his talent. The protagonist Bell has a special skill, so he can improve so quickly, and he has also broken the boundary and stepped into a new field. But Chinching does not have this skill. But Chinching's growth rate is not slower than Bellcrane at all, and it is even much faster than Bellcrane. It took Bellcrane 1.5 months to upgrade from LV1 to LV2. But Morningstar only took a few days to achieve full ability S achievement. This qualification is much more terrifying than Bellcrane, who has the skill of admiration, and it can be called the most evil existence in the history of Oreo. With this evil qualification, Morningstar is naturally full of confidence in himself, thinking that he can break the boundary like the protagonist Bell and step into the SS level. And today's update tells Morningstar that his guess is right, and he does have the qualification to break the boundary. Therefore, Morningstar is not surprised, but shows a reaction as expected. Since the boundary has been broken, there is no need to rush to upgrade. Continue to improve the ability value and upgrade it after the ability value cannot be further improved. Looking at the value changes on the grace paper, Morningstar smiled slightly, muttered in his heart, and then burned the engraved grace paper after solidifying the grace. After leaving the room, Morningstar went to prepare dinner and then brought dinner to Hestia. Pushing the dinner in front of Hestia, Chinching started to eat his portion. "Hey, Chinching, is it really that difficult to recruit a family?" Hestia didn't hesitate to pick up the chopsticks and started eating. But while eating, she complained to Chinching about the difficulty of recruiting a family. "Well, a new family is like this. You need to work hard. Come on, keep working hard and there will definitely be people willing to join your family." Chinching heard the words and comforted with a smile, but a red-eyed rabbit appeared in his mind. I don't know if Hestia can recruit Bellcrane. After all, there's one more person now. Although I didn't do anything, the butterfly effect is still terrible. Well, I know. I will work hard to recruit a family as soon as possible and let her accompany you. Hestia nodded and said, You're still thinking about me." Hearing what Hestia said, Chinching smiled slightly. If a situation was not too shocking, Chinching really wanted to tell Hestia directly. However, after thinking about it, Chinching still didn't say it. If he really said it, it might not make Hestia more determined to create a family, and it might make Hestia give up. Chinching didn't know why Hestia was so good to him. Even recruiting family members seemed to be for him to have a companion to go to the dungeon together. If Hestia really knew that he was already in the middle level, Hestia would probably have no motivation to create a family. After all, if he recruited new family members, the family members would only be active in the upper level, and they had no ability to go to the middle level and could not accompany him. With Hestia's current negative state, she probably gave up directly. "Yeah, I'm worried about you being alone in the dungeon." Hestia nodded and said. Hearing this, Chinching was silent, opened his mouth, and asked the question he had been concerned about in a low voice. "Hestia, why do you care about me so much?" Hestia's thoughts on creating a family are very obvious these days, and what is more obvious is Hestia's purpose in creating a family. It can be said that Hestia founded the family entirely for herself. Why did Hestia do this for herself? Morningstar, I have a good impression of you. Not as a friend, but as a partner in the future. I don't want anything to happen to you. Hearing Morningstar's question, Hestia was slightly stunned. She did not answer immediately, but fell silent. After a while, a bright smile appeared on Hestia's face, and she said with a smile. Hearing this, Morningstar was stunned for a moment, and after a while, she smiled and slowly spoke. "Is that so? It just so happens that I like you too." Chapter 30. Commission, the Perseverancier. The next morning, Chinching got up early. After a simple wash, Chinching left the library without disturbing Hestia, who was still sleeping, and rushed to the location of the Hephaestus family. Because Chun knew that Chinching would come to get weapons early in the morning, she woke up very early. Here, it has been maintained. I also polished it specially, and it is better than the original sword. Chun handed Chinching's third-level long sword to Chinching and said with a smile, "Thank you." Chinching took the sword and unsheathed it directly, then observed it carefully and found that it was really better than before, and then smiled and thanked. Mouth habit. I am now your exclusive forger. You can come to me to order any equipment you need. By the way, you don't have any defensive equipment. Do you need to make a set of defensive equipment for you? Chun hummed, then looked at Chinching's body, then frowned and said, "Thank you, but I don't need it." Chinching smiled and declined. "Yeah, okay. If you need it in the future, just come to me directly." Chun nodded without forcing Chinching's refusal. "Yeah." After chatting with Chun for a few words, Chinching left the Hephaestus clan and rushed to the direction of Tianking's shop. "I forgot to replenish the potion last night, so I went to replenish it this morning." Chinching didn't buy too many potions to restore mental power in the past 2 days. Because there is no need to develop creative magic in the dungeon, the consumption of mental power is not great. So the potions to restore mental power that Chinching bought in the past 2 days have returned to normal. This made Naza look at Chinching with resentment, as if Chinching was a heartless man. "Do you really not need more potions to restore mental power, Mr. Chinching?" Naza said, looking at Chinching with expectation. "Chinching, I really don't need too much. I just need the same amount as the potion for restoring physical strength and healing injuries." Facing Naza's expectant eyes, Chinching sweated for a while and then said firmly, "Why buy so many potions? I can't use so many." "That's a pity." Seeing Chinching's firm refusal, Naza sighed and had to give up. "Regret? This is just your regret." Looking at Naza's regretful look, Chinching complained his heart. Immediately, Chinching took the potion and prepared to leave here. Chinching really couldn't stand Naza's resentful little eyes. However, when Chinching was about to leave, Naza called Chinching. "Mr. Chinching, do you accept the commission?" Commission? What commission?" Chinching paused and asked. "A request to collect materials. There's a kind of fluorescent powder on the 6th floor of the dungeon, which is a material for me to make potions. If possible, please help me collect some." Naza nodded and then expressed her thoughts. The prices of materials collected by other adventurers on the ground and materials collected by others from the dungeon are obviously different. The materials on the ground are brought back from the dungeon by some members of the clan who have changed their job to collect materials. They sell them to members who specialize in selling potions. After one hand, the price becomes more expensive. If you directly entrust adventurers to collect materials, the price will be much lower. Entrust Chinching to collect materials. This is the idea that Naza has come up with in the past 2 days. Because Naza saw that Chinching seemed to be doing well in the dungeon, he should be able to collect materials during the adventure. So Naza tentatively proposed this commission. It is better to keep the fat water in the field. Compared with other adventurers, giving Chinching this commission that can be paid for work can also bring Chinching some extra income. If it is possible, it is great, but if it is not possible, it doesn't matter. Is that so? Okay, I will take this commission. How much do you need? Chinching nodded and agreed after hearing this. 1 pound. After leaving Naza, Chinching rushed towards the Tower of Babel. However, as expected, Chinching was stopped by Sierra again when passing by the Finu Hostess Tavern. "Miss Sierra, I really don't need a lunchbox. Please don't bother me." Chinching shirked and left quickly, leaving Sierra with a lunchbox in her hand, looking helpless. "It's really a headache. This kid is stubborn." Looking at Chinching's back, Sierra rubbed her eyebrows and murmured in her heart. Originally, she wanted to use this method to get closer to Chinching, but Chinching didn't give her any chance at all. Not to mention getting along well after getting closer. This is the only time she can get in touch with Chinching every day. If she hadn't found out which clan Morningstar belonged to and where he lived, she would have really wanted to go to his house directly. P.S. In the original book, the goddess of beauty Freya didn't find out where Bel lived and which clan he belonged to at the beginning. It can only be said that Freya didn't find out about such a large clan and could only learn about it from Hestia in the divine meeting, which is outrageous. Looking at the back that gradually disappeared from her sight, Seal sighed and returned to the tavern with her lunchbox. What? Hit a wall again? Inside the tavern, Aunt Mia looked at Seal, who came in, and put on a teasing smile on her face. Mr. Morningstar seems to have some misunderstandings about me and has been unwilling to accept my kindness. Seal looked distressed, and the smile on her face was a little far-fetched. That boy has a keen sense. Aunt Mia smiled meaningfully. As soon as these words came out, Seal's body stiffened. She naturally knew what Mia meant, so she couldn't refute it. And at this moment, Lou came out of the kitchen. Sheer, do you like that fellow countryman very much? Yes, I like Mr. Chinching very much, but it's a pity that Mr. Chinching doesn't like me. Sheer rubbed her face to make her cheeks less stiff, then turned to look at Lou and said with a smile. Hearing this, Lou was silent for a moment, then nodded and said nothing. Since Sheer likes that fellow countryman, then try to take care of him as much as possible in the future. Have fun reading books every day during the 11th. Recharge 100 and get 500 VIP points. Recharge now. Event time. October 1st to October 7th. Chapter 31. Monster Feast. Loki's Familia Chinching didn't know what happened in the Rich Hostess Tavern. At this time, Chinching had already started his journey with his reincarnation ion. When passing the 6th floor, Chinching didn't stop. Although he accepted Naz's commission, Chinching didn't plan to collect it now, and planned to do it when he came back in the afternoon. Yesterday, he got the information about the floors after the 15th floor from Agina, and Chinching planned to fight all the way from the 15th floor today. With the reincarnation ion, Chinching rushed straight to the 15th floor. It took more than an hour to reach the 15th floor from the 1st floor before Chinching stopped. Not long after arriving at the 15th floor, Chinching received a warm welcome from the dungeon. The 15th floor is very large, almost comparable to Orio. Chinching fought all the way and spent more than an hour to find the passage to the next floor and entered the 16th floor. Oh, finally other monsters have appeared. Seeing the saber-toothed tiger appearing on the 16th floor besides the Minotaur, Chinching was a little overjoyed and then rushed out quickly, killing the saber-toothed tiger with a sword. As Chinching's ability value increased, Chinching's strength was greatly enhanced. Now, facing the LV2 monster, relying on his strong fighting skills, Chinching can kill the LV2 monster directly. That is, when there are many monsters, Chinching will have to work a little harder. This is also one of the reasons why Chinching's ability value will increase slowly. There is no way his own strength becomes stronger, but the strength of the monster will not become stronger, resulting in his own crushing of the monster. Waving his weapon, Chinching began to kill on the 16th floor. In more than an hour, Chinching directly killed through the entire 16th floor. It seems that because Chinching killed too many monsters, Chinching did not find a passage to the 17th floor, and the dungeon no longer gave birth to monsters in front of Chinching. What a disappointment. Looking at the quiet corridor, Chinching curled his lips and continued to walk forward without stopping, looking for the passage to the 17th floor. After spending more than 10 minutes and going through many twists and turns, Chinching finally found the passage to the 17th floor, stepped into it, and entered the 17th floor after a few minutes of walking. It's the Minotaur again. Seeing that the dungeon began the welcome ceremony just after entering the 17th floor, Chinching said lightly. Immediately, the weapon on his waist was unsheathed again, and the magic circle behind him was also unfolded, and Chinching rushed out quickly. The number of monsters in this wave was not large, only 7, which could not play a much training role for Chinching, so Chinching directly used magic. Among the 5 ability values of Enhui, magic power is the easiest to improve. Magic power does not need to be like the other 4 ability values. It needs to be improved through fierce hand-to-hand combat or high-intensity training. As long as you keep using magic and consuming magic, you can improve your magic power. However, whether you can improve it depends on your personal situation. After all, there is a bottleneck period for any ability value. Morningstar is improving in all aspects, so naturally you will not fall behind in the training of magic power. When fighting monsters, you will also release magic from time to time to bombard monsters. The magic created by Morningstar is very powerful. When it was first developed, the magic power was already in the category of the best among LV2. Now, with the improvement of Morningstar's strength, Morningstar's strongest magic firepower has reached LV3, and it will consume more magic power when it goes all out. Because of the large consumption of magic power, Morningstar does not need to use magic continuously. It was just that every time he encountered a wave of monsters, Chinching would use magic once and kill as many as he could, and the rest would be left to hand-to-hand combat. The beginning of the first battle on the 17th floor also meant that Chinching began to bloodbath the 17th floor. Chinching began to slaughter the monsters again, killing all the way. However, when he killed to a huge space, Chinching stopped, with surprise flashing in his eyes. Monster Feast. Chinching actually encountered a monster feast. After so many days in the lower middle layer, this was the first time Chinching encountered a monster feast. Encountering a monster feast, Chinching could not help but feel no panic, but was excited in his heart. It was said before that with the improvement of Chinching's strength, the number of ordinary monsters could no longer play a big role in training Chinching. But the monster feast was different. The number of monsters that could be called a monster feast was at least more than 20. 20 LV2 monsters besieged Chinching, and even Chinching needed to deal with it with all his strength. This means that Morningstar will be caught in a fierce battle again. Only fierce battles can quickly improve Morningstar's ability value. Looking at the group of Minotaur that surrounded him, Morningstar's mouth curled up slightly. The next second, Morningstar rushed out. The fight officially began. At the same time, when Morningstar and Monster Feast collided, on the other side, in the passage not far from the space where Morningstar was, a team of several people was slowly walking towards the space where Morningstar was. If Morningstar was here, he would definitely recognize the identities of these people at the first time. Brave Finn, Sword Princess S, Grey Wolfbert, Angry Snake Dawn, Great Cutoff Diana, and the high-level members of the Loki family. Except for Heavy Jeegers, everyone else is here. Looking at the appearance of the people of the Loki family, it seems that they have just returned from an expedition. Ah, what a pity it's so hard to reach the 50th floor. While walking, Great Cutoff Diana said with a face full of complaints, "That's enough. How long are you going to complain?" Her sister, Angry Snake Dion, who was beside her, heard her sister's complaints again and said angrily. On the way back, she didn't know how many times she heard her sister complain about the special events that happened during this expedition. But what exactly is that caterpillar-like thing? Dion didn't pay attention to her sister's words, but talked about the new monster encountered in this abnormal event. Her weapon was corroded by the mucus of the new caterpillar-like monster, which made her feel distressed for a long time. If Chinching heard the conversation between the two, he would definitely know what time period he is in now. He would also know another point. That is, the plot is completely messed up. Chapter 32. AC's evaluation from the conversation between Tioni and Tiona. It can be heard that the Loki family has experienced a failed expedition due to the sudden appearance of a new type of monster, and is now on the way back. At this time, Belle Crane, the first member of Hestia's family in the original book, has not even appeared. Isn't this a mess? The two sisters chatted while walking, and Tioni put her hand between her chest and took out a different magic stone from it. The normal magic stone is dark purple in color, but the magic stone that Tioni took out at this time is orange, and there is a green light flashing inside the magic stone. Is this the monster that those caterpillars dropped? How did you get it? Tiona asked curiously. Just insert it directly and pull out. Tioni made an attacking gesture and said calmly. However, Tiona beside her broke out in a cold sweat. This sister of mine is really ruthless. The blood of those caterpillars is corrosive, and her weapons were corroded. As a result, her sister actually inserted her hand into the body of the monster and forcibly pulled the magic stone out of the monster's body. Before, Diana felt her scalp tingling when she thought about the corrosiveness of the liquid in the monster's body. However, she found another problem. Her sister's body was harder than Urga's to some extent, and it was not corroded. And just at this time, Diana found that Finn and Lavilia, who were walking in front, actually ran, followed by AC and others. What happened? Diana hurriedly ran after them and shouted to Finn and others in front. The same thing happened to Dion beside her. It seems that there is a monster feast in front. Let's go and take a look. Finn, who was running in the front, explained without looking back. Monster feast. I didn't expect to encounter it here. Interesting. Hearing that she actually encountered a monster feast, Deanna was a little excited and sped up. On the other side, Morningstar was completely trapped in the encirclement of Minotaur. Minotaur after Minotaur continued to attack Morningstar. The battle was very fierce, but Morningstar was able to handle it with ease. Although he was occasionally attacked, he was only slightly injured. This situation was what Morningstar wanted. Surrounded by many Minotaur, Morningstar's face was full of smiles. Such a monster feast, Morningstar wished to come more times. Now Morningstar is no longer satisfied with the monsters that appear one by one. Grace is based on the foundation. After each level upgrade, the ability value continues to increase on the basis of the strength of the new level and become stronger. Its strength also increases with the basis of the new level. Therefore, the strength will change drastically after each level upgrade. Before using the World Grace, Morningstar had the combat power of LV2 because of the serum, so Morningstar's LV1 can be said to be LV2. Now that his ability value has crossed the limit and reached the SS level, it can be said that Morningstar's strength has completely surpassed the LV2 level and can even be compared with those LV3 adventurers who upgrade casually. That is, they upgrade as soon as they reach the minimum upgrade limit and their ability value reaches D. Even an LV3 adventurer would be very passive in the face of such a Minotaur monster feast. However, Morningstar is different. Facing the Minotaur monster feast, Morningstar is relaxed and carefree and does not take these monsters seriously at all. The powerful combat skills that Morningstar possesses can easily deal with the attacks of monsters in the monster feast. Taking a step back, Morningstar also has light attribute magic and the reincarnation eye mode. This magic skill can be said to be Morningstar's trump card. However, what Morningstar is pursuing now is to improve the ability value in the fierce battle, so it will not be used casually. Needless to say, magic, one move can at least kill several Minotaurs directly. Morningstar is now counting on this large wave of Minotaur to let himself fall into a fierce battle. How can he use magic to clean up the ground? In the reincarnation eye mode, the power of this skill is the same. Not only it consumes a lot of physical strength, but also some long-range attack methods, which cannot exercise Morningstar at all and improve the grace ability value. So Morningstar will not use it casually. The current situation is very good. However, if it is really dangerous, Morningstar will use these two trump cards without hesitation. While Morningstar was enjoying the fierce battle, Finn and others from the Loki clan finally came to the vicinity not far away. The members of the Loki clan who came to the vicinity saw Morningstar besieged by the monster feast at first sight. It's too bad that I encountered a monster feast alone. Captain, I'll go help that elf brother. Seeing that Morningstar was besieged by so many Minotaurs alone, the innocent and romantic Diana was ready to help immediately. However, just when she came to Finn and was about to pass by Finn, Diana was stopped. Wait, Diana, don't act rashly, Finn said with a frown. Why, Captain? Diana was a little puzzled. Since she saw it, she couldn't just watch the elf brother in front of her being killed by monsters. Dion and Bert also looked over, puzzled as to why their leader would stop Diana. Flawless sword skills. At this moment, AI, C suddenly spoke, and a sentence stunned Diana and the other two. Watch carefully. This is an existence that has trained its combat skills to the pinnacle. Finn also spoke. At first, Finn didn't see it either and thought that Morningstar was besieged and in danger and wanted to help, but Finn saw that something was wrong with AIC, who seemed a little excited. This situation made Finn pause for a moment and observe. This observation made Finn realize that something was wrong. Good guy, Morningstar, who was surrounded by Minotaur, was in danger and was clearly enjoying the siege of Minotaur with ease. The elf in front of him was using the Minotaur group to temper himself. That powerful combat skill made even Finn look sideways. After hearing Finn's words, Diana still had some doubts, but she still did what Finn said. And with this observation, the three of them also understood why Finn stopped them. Deanna. How could this young man in front of him be in danger? He was clearly enjoying himself. Chapter 33. Praise from Loki's Familia in the monster feast in front of him. Morning stars seem to be surrounded by dangers, but if you observe carefully, you can find that this is only the surface. The real situation is that Morningstar is at ease shuttling between the monsters' attacks to counterattack them. Sometimes, even if attacked by monsters, Morningstar endured it at the lowest cost, and it seemed that it could not pose a threat to Morningstar at all. What made Deanna and others completely confirm this fact was the faint smile on Morningstar's face. Whose good people can smile when they are surrounded by dangers? Only those crazy perverts can do that. Morningstar doesn't look like a pervert at all. Naturally, Morningstar also noticed the existence of Finn and others. When Finn and others first appeared, Morningstar recognized their identities at first sight. At first, Morningstar was worried that Finn and others would intervene. After all, from the original book, Finn and others are positive characters, at least not negative adventurers. If they encounter their current situation, they will probably help. However, after seeing that Deanna wanted to attack, but was stopped by Finn, Morningstar understood that Finn should have seen his situation. So Morningstar also felt relieved to continue fighting with Monster Feast. The place where Morningstar was a huge space, with many passages in all directions. Originally, Morningstar thought that Finn and others would leave through other passages in order to hurry. Unexpectedly, Finn and others stood at the entrance of the passage and quietly observed the situation on their side. Although being watched by others, Morningstar did not feel uncomfortable and let Finn and others watch from the side, as long as Finn and others did not disturb his battle. At this time, the Loki family. I'm not familiar with the skills of using swords, but I feel that this guy's fighting skills are really the same as what AIC said, without any flaws. I simulated it in my mind and found that no matter how I attacked, the situation of the elf brother seemed to be able to block my attack. If you don't use your powerful strength, you can't take him down at all. Dion looked at the battlefield for a long time, touched his chin, and said his thoughts. She found that if she suppressed her strength to the same level as Morningstar, she seemed to be no match for Morningstar at all. Only by relying on stronger strength and crushing in terms of strength and speed can she defeat Morningstar. Oh, me too. This fighting skill is too perfect, isn't it? Deanna nodded in agreement. She watched for a long time and found that Morningstar's fighting skills were so perfect that she couldn't find any point to break in. TSK, I have to admit it. Even Bert, who has always been rebellious, couldn't find any flaws in the battle in front of him. If it were him, using the strength shown by Morningstar, referring to the level of grace ability, to deal with a monster feast in front of him, he would definitely do it so perfectly. It's even hard to say whether he can survive the crisis. How about it? With your eyes, can you see anything, Ace? Here, Finn watched for a long time and came to the same conclusion as Dion and others, then turned to look at Ace and asked Ace. Among the first-level adventurers present, only AC used a long sword as a weapon. In terms of swords, AC's knowledge is obviously better than theirs. It's still the same as before, perfect. Even if it's me, I probably can't beat him with the same strength. AC's eyes did not shift, still staring at the battlefield, and replied lightly. Everyone present was stunned when they heard AC's words. I didn't expect AC to give such a high evaluation. She actually admitted that she might not be the opponent of Morningstar with the same strength. You know, AC is one of the best people-to-people masters in Oreo. In an instant, everyone looked at the battlefield, and their eyes changed when they looked at Morningstar on the battlefield. When did Oreo have such a sword master who made AC feel inferior? And being able to fight against the monster feast alone and with ease, this strength is at least the top column in the ability value of LV2, and it can even be said to be LV3 strength. Lafia, I am your fellow elf. At this time, Deanna came to Lafia and said to Lafia, it's an elf. Lafia was slightly stunned. She didn't know what Deanna meant by this, and she responded blankly. It feels like this is the first time I've seen such a powerful elf. Dion also came over and nudged Lafia with her elbow. Deanna nodded in agreement. They have seen more powerful elves, but this is the first time like Morningstar. It is obvious that you are only at the level of LV2, but you rely on your own powerful fighting skills to be at ease in the feast of dozens of monsters without any danger. It would be great if I could spar with him. Looking at the battlefield in front of her and Morningstar on the battlefield, she murmured in her heart. Powerful fighting skills can also enhance one's own strength. Just like Morningstar in front of her, she thought she was already at the top in fighting against people, but the fighting skills that Morningstar showed now made her rarely think that she couldn't beat him. As soon as this idea came up, AIC's first reaction was to find Morningstar to spar with him and hone more powerful fighting skills. However, AC only thought about it in her heart. She really couldn't say such words casually. After all, they were strangers. The Loki family did not leave directly. They just stood quietly in front of the passage and watched the whole battle from the beginning to the end. Watching Qinxing feast on the monsters one by one, the monsters of the Minotaur group were killed. After the battle, Qinxing did not start picking up the magic stone directly, but looked at the Loki family, slightly puzzled. The people of the Loki family have been standing there, not leaving, watching him fight. What do they want to do? Qinxing will not classify the Loki family as enemies just because the Loki family did not leave and watch his battle. Because the people of the Loki family will not do this, it is the first time for him to contact the Loki family, and there is no grudge. After the battle, Finn and others also took steps and walked towards Qinxing. Soon they came to Qinxing. Chapter 34. Friendship of Loki's Familia. What a wonderful battle. My name is Finn Timna. Can I meet you? Standing in front of Morningstar, Finn smiled and stretched out his hand to Morningstar. After seeing Morningstar's fighting skills that could easily handle the monster feast, Finn understood that the person in front of him would definitely rise in the future and become an equal to them in the future. So Finn didn't mind getting to know Morningstar now. As adventurers who were both conquering dungeons, there might be opportunities for cooperation in the future. Morningstar. Seeing this, Morningstar glanced at Finn, then at Finn's outstretched hand, thought for 2 seconds, then stretched out his hand and shook it together, and said gently, "Excuse me, which clan is Mr. Morningstar from?" Since he decided to make friends with Morningstar, Finn naturally needed to ask about Morningstar's clan. Otherwise, if he didn't even know Morningstar's clan, how could he make friends with him? So Finn didn't hesitate at all when asking. Lucifer Familia. Morningstar did not hide it and directly said the name of the familia he founded. Morningstar also saw that Finn was trying to befriend him. Morningstar did not mind this situation. When he first came to this world, Morningstar was out of tune with this world, but with the help of the old man, he had accepted this world. It's just that Morningstar's personality is more withdrawn, and he doesn't want to run around. So he has no friends and no interpersonal relationships. Until Hestia became Morningstar's friend, Morningstar's personality began to change, and he no longer rejected contact with others. This is also the reason why Morningstar had a good conversation with Naza when he went to Tian King's shop to buy potions. Later, Chun proposed to sign a forger contract with Morningstar, and Morningstar did not refuse for this reason. Now, as the leader of the Loki Familia, the brave Finn Tim clearly showed goodwill to him, and Morningstar would not reject this goodwill. In the future, if Oreo wants to survive safely, he may need the help of the Loki Familia. Lucifer family? I see. Finn nodded slightly after hearing this. Hey, Brother Morningstar, the battle just now was so exciting. I have never seen such an exciting battle before. As soon as Finn finished speaking, Diana, who was a person of Finn's stature, couldn't help but speak up, watching Morningstar excitedly express her thoughts. Well, it was a wonderful battle. Sister Dion also agreed. Thank you for the compliment. Morningstar smiled and replied, and then began to pick up the magic stones on the ground. Brother Morningstar, I will help you pick them up. Seeing Morningstar picking up magic stones again, Diana took the initiative to ask, and then squatted down to help Morningstar pick up magic stones without waiting for Morningstar's answer. Thank you. Looking at Diana, who took action directly after speaking, Morningstar wanted to refuse. After all, there were only more than 20 magic stones, and he could pick them up quickly by himself. But Diana had already taken action directly. The words of refusal came to the tip of Morningstar's lips, but he didn't say it in the end, and just said thank you softly. I'll do it too, Tioni also said, and then started pick up. Tioni had already started, so Tioni was not the only one. Morningstar did not refuse, and also thanked him softly. Seeing the actions of Tioni, AC and others joined in without saying a word. More than 20 magic stones were picked up in just a few seconds. Morningstar, we are ready to go back. Do you want to join us? After picking up the magic stones and handing them to Morningstar, Finn asked Morningstar. Morningstar heard this, but did not answer. Instead, he asked, Finn, when you came up, did you encounter the floor master when you passed by the wall of size? Morningstar's original plan was to fight all the way down from the 15th floor. And by the way, see if he could encounter the floor master Goliath, and use the floor master Goliath to test his current strongest strength. See if he can kill Goliath with the Silver Wheel Rebirth Explosion or the Golden Wheel Rebirth Explosion in one shot with the Samsara mode. Of course, whether it is the Silver Wheel Rebirth Explosion or the Golden Wheel Rebirth Explosion, Morningstar can only hit it once. And it is not the strongest power of the two moves. There is no way. Who makes Morningstar's current physical strength not enough to support the explosion of the full power of the Silver Wheel Rebirth Explosion and the Golden Wheel Rebirth Explosion? I didn't encounter it. Finn was a little surprised when he heard this, but then he answered Morningstar. They did not encounter Goliath on the way up. It's probably because Lavilia and Grace, who were walking in front of us, encountered them and took care of them. Deanna said with her hands behind her back. It's also possible that the first-level adventurers of other large families took care of them. Dion followed. Perhaps they were killed by the adventurers on the 18th floor. AC also spoke up. Thank you, but I have to go to the 18th floor, so I won't go back with you. Morningstar nodded and thanked him after hearing this, and then declined Finn's invitation to go back together. Although the purpose is to find a floor master to compete, Morningstar will not say that he is going to fight the floor master, so he uses the excuse of going to the 18th floor to ask. This is very normal for adventurers. It is difficult for low-level adventurers to pass through the Great Wall of Size. It is best to know whether the Goliath in the Great Wall of Size is still there. If not, it's the best. If it is, you can also make some preparations for a quick passage. These are what Aina told herself. And they are also the consensus of low-level adventurers. Really? That's a pity. Then let's say goodbye here. Finn heard this and expressed regret. He was still thinking about exchanging fighting skills with Morningstar on the way back. The fighting skills that Morningstar showed in the previous battle were amazing even to him. This is why he felt that Morningstar would not die halfway and would go all the way to where they were. With such powerful fighting skills, as long as Morningstar is more cautious, he will definitely not die in the hands of monsters and can grow up smoothly. Well, goodbye. Nodding slightly to a few people, Morningstar took a step towards the passage where Finn and others came from. Finn and others came from that passage, which means that this passage has a road leading directly to the Wall of Size. Going directly here can prevent Morningstar from wasting unnecessary time. You say, Brother Morningstar, don't you want to fight Goliath? Seeing Morningstar's figure disappear from the passage, Deanna suddenly said this. Hearing this, everyone looked at each other. I don't think so. Finn's mouth twitched, and then he said, Chapter 35. By chance, Goliath, the lonely king of the labyrinth. Finn couldn't imagine the scene of Morningstar. LV2, going to fight Goliath alone. It would be fine if Morningstar went with a group of low-level adventurers and some heavy equipment. But Morningstar was alone. And he didn't think Morningstar would be so unwise to fight Goliath alone. Although Morningstar's performance just now was very dazzling. So dazzling that he couldn't help but want to cheer. But this didn't make Morningstar have the ability to fight Goliath alone. After all, although Goliath was the first floor master, his strength was also outstanding among LV4. There were very few LV4 adventurers who could kill Goliath. Not to mention that Morningstar's strength was not LV4. Don't think too much. There was no movement when so many of us passed by there. It must have been cleared out. Let's go quickly. Bert retracted his gaze and said lightly, then put his hands in his pockets and walked forward. Hearing this, everyone also felt that Bert's words made sense. After looking at the entrance of the passage again, They turned around and set off on the return journey again. Only AIC looked deeply at the passage for a few times before turning around and following the pace of the crowd. She had a hunch that Qinxing seemed to be really heading for the floor master. She didn't know how she had this hunch, but the hunch was very strong. If Qinxing knew what AIC was thinking at this moment, she would probably ask AIC if it was the roundworm in her stomach, and she was so sure. Of course, she might also ask Diana. After all, this guy was the first to guess Qinxing's thoughts. However, Qinxing didn't know the situation here. At this time, Qinxing had already walked along the passage and soon came to the sighing wall. The location of the sighing wall is a very huge space, and it is also the last level to the 18th floor. The passage to the 18th floor is just in front of the sighing wall. There is only one way, the sighing wall. If you want to go to the 18th floor, the sighing wall is an absolute danger that you can't avoid. Of course, it is only dangerous for low-level adventurers. There is no danger after the strength reaches LV3. There are still dangers at LV2, but starting from LV3, even if you can't beat Goliath, you can definitely escape from Goliath's men. The purpose of Qinxing coming here is Goliath, so he didn't rush like other low-level adventurers, and he wanted to move directly from this side of the passage to the other side of the passage. After coming out of the passage, Qinxing walked out slowly, and his eyes fell on a white and translucent wall in this space. This wall is the sighing wall, which is also the birthplace and habitat of Goliath. If Goliath is still there, then the sighing wall will react as soon as Qinxing steps into this space. But Qinxing has been standing here for almost a minute, and there is still no movement in the sighing wall. This makes Qinxing a little disappointed, and his brows are frowned. Sighing silently, Qinxing turned around and prepared to start the return journey. However, just a few steps out, Qinxing heard a very clear click, and the sound became louder and louder, and even began to echo in this space. Qinxing turned his head and saw that the Great Wall of Sighs had cracks, which spread out like a spider web. Seeing this scene, Qinxing's eyes suddenly lit up, knowing that this was the prelude to the birth of Goliath. It seems that his luck is very good. Goliath should be in the refresh cycle just now, and he happened to be encountered by Qinxing. With a thought, Qinxing directly entered the reincarnation eye mode. The azure light flame instantly covered Qinxing's whole body, and the seeking jade, wrapped in blue light, floated quietly behind Qinxing. Qinxing quietly looked at the Great Wall of Sighs that had not yet broken, took out a bottle of potion from the bag on his waist, and drank it. This is a potion to restore physical strength. Qinxing consumed a lot of physical strength when fighting the monster feast just now, and his physical strength was seriously weakened. Although he had drunk the physical strength potion, he had not yet recovered to his peak state. Now that he has encountered Goliath, he naturally needs to replenish his physical strength. It must be said that the effect of the potion made by Maihen Naza is really good. As soon as the potion entered his stomach, Qinxing felt his fatigue gradually recede, and his physical strength gradually recovered, and the speed of recovery was very fast. In a blink of an eye, he recovered almost everything. The effect of Qinxing's potion has begun to take effect, and the sighing wall was directly broken at this moment. A gray giant with a height of 6 or 7 meters walked out of the wall, and the first thing he did was to roar to the sky, bursting out with an extremely loud roar. The loud roar echoed in this space, making Qinxing frown instinctively. The sound was too loud, and it was still echoing in this space, and Qinxing's ears suffer a lot. Feeling that his body had recovered to the state of the 7th or 8th level, Qinxing did not wait any longer and did not hesitate. 9 seeking jades, 5 of which flew out from behind Qinxing, gathered in Qinxing's hands and burst into a fierce light. In the blink of an eye, a golden lightsaber composed of light appeared in Qinxing's hand. Holding the lightsaber, Qinxing raised it high, looking at Goliath not far away with indifferent eyes. Goliath seemed to sense the breath of danger from the lightsaber in Qinxing's hand, and the roar stopped abruptly. Goliath stepped forward with his huge body and rushed towards Qinxing quickly. His huge feet landed on the ground, and the earth trembled. Looking at Goliath, who rushed over, both in momentum and body, he had a very strong sense of oppression. Chinching looked calm and did not panic at all. The golden lightsaber held high fell gently. Golden Wheel Reincarnation Explosion. Chapter 36. Kill Goliath in seconds. Drop materials as Morningstar wave his hand. The golden lightsaber changed rapidly and turned into a giant sword several tens of meters long, which instantly slashed Goliath's body. Goliath, who was running, seemed to be completely unaware of the situation and continued to charge. The earth was still shaking. However, after 2 seconds, Goliath, who was running, suddenly stopped, trembled all over, and his huge body was directly split into 2 halves, burning and falling to both sides. The huge magic stone in Goliath's body also appeared in front of Morningstar at this moment. Under Morningstar's gaze, this one-person-high magic stone cracked from the center and then spread out in a spider web-like manner at lightning speed. In less than a second, the huge magic stone collapsed directly, turning into dots of starlight floating in the air. And at that moment, the underground city seemed to realize belatedly that Morningstar's attack, just now, seemed to have fallen on him. Bang! With a loud bang, the flat ground collapsed instantly. Starting from where Chinching was standing, a dark gully that could not be seen to the bottom broke open. It was not too deep, but the ground was black, so the bottom could not be seen, spreading forward to the wall of size. Then, a more violent vibration than the tremor caused by Goliath's running fell on the space of the wall of size. The whole space shook violently, and the wall of size exploded with a huge explosion, which was 2 or 3 times larger than Goliath's body, floating more than 10 centimeters above the ground. Chinching looked at the scene in front of him, and his eyes twitched slightly. Chinching did not expect that the power of the Golden Wheel Rebirth explosion released by his 8th level of physical strength would be so powerful. In Chinching's original expectation, being able to severely injure Goliath was already the best result. However, the result was far beyond Chinching's expectations. The Golden Wheel Rebirth explosion released by the 8th level of physical strength actually killed Goliath in 1 second. Chinching felt that he had greatly underestimated the power of the Samsara I mode. Come to think of it, after Otsutsuki Tonari, who possessed the Samsara I, activated the Samsara I chakra mode, he directly split the moon created by the 6-path sage into 2 halves with a golden wheel Samsara explosion. Although that moon was much smaller than a normal moon, it was also very huge. Although he was not as good as Otsutsuki Tonari, the power of the golden wheel Samsara explosion released by spending 8 layers of physical strength directly killed Goliath, the floor master, in seconds, which seemed reasonable. After thinking about it for a while, Chinching successfully put the matter behind him, and then began to feel distress for the magic stone that had just disappeared. Such a big magic stone, if it was cut into pieces and sold, it could be sold for at least a few million. As a result, it was just destroyed by his sword. It was really a waste of natural resources. As for why it was cut into pieces and sold, it was naturally because Chinching was not stupid. Such a large magic stone is obviously something that only the floor master can drop. If you really take such a large magic stone to exchange, others will know that it is the floor master's magic stone at a glance. Wouldn't that expose your strength? Moreover, carrying such a large magic stone is also ostentatious. Chinching doesn't want to be famous now. You can expose your strength, but it can't be too outrageous. Dropped materials? While complaining in his heart, the space of the side wall finally stopped shaking. Chinching glanced around and suddenly found that there was something where Goliath turned into ashes. And there was one kind on each side. Goliath actually dropped 2 materials. This immediately made Chinching's eyes light up. His luck today is really good. He met the Goliath that Finn and others could not meet. And after killing Goliath, he got 2 materials at once. This is the first time he encountered dropped materials. He quickly flew to one side by controlling gravity and quickly checked the dropped items. The item dropped here is a skin, Goliath's skin. Looking at this skin, Chinching suddenly remembered the situation in the original book. In the original book, because of the troublemaker Hermes' troublemaking behavior, The dungeon sent the enhanced Black Goliath to the 18th floor of the safe floor. The Black Goliath was killed by everyone on the safe floor, and a piece of fur fell, which was made into a scarf. During the forced expedition, this cloak saved Bell Crane several times, especially when he was hit in the neck by the destroyer Zagnet. Without this scarf, Bell Crane would have been GG. The fur in front of Morningstar is naturally not comparable to the fur dropped by the enhanced Black Goliath, but it is also a very precious material. If it is handed over to the forger for forging, it can at least be forged into a second-level defensive equipment. After picking up the fur and putting in the bag, Morningstar flew to the other side. A bone fell in the material room on the other side. It was a bone from Goliath, but it was unknown which part of his body it was from. However, as a bone from Goliath, it is naturally a precious material. If it is forged into a weapon, it is estimated that it can reach the second level. After collecting this bone, Morningstar's depressed mood due to the disappearance of the magic stone was slightly relieved. And just at this time, Morningstar suddenly heard a burst of hurried footsteps. Turning his head, Morningstar heard that the source of the footsteps came from the entrance to the 18th floor. It seems that the adventurers on the 18th floor noticed the changes here, so they ran over. But Morningstar didn't want these people to know that he killed Goliath. Controlling gravity, Morningstar flashed and flew towards the passageway from where he came, leaving the space of the sign wall before the adventurers on the 18th floor arrived. Not long after Morningstar left, a group of adventurers ran out from the passageway leading to the 18th floor. As soon as they appeared, many adventurers were frightened by the situation here at the sign wall. Many adventurers stared blankly at the huge ravine in front of them and the huge gap on the sign wall, and remained silent for a long time. They had never seen such a situation in the space of the sign wall. Even if someone came to attack Goliath, it would not cause such terrible damage. After a long time, someone came back to his senses and shouted loudly, "What on earth happened here?" Chapter 37. Date with Aegina. Morningstar didn't know what happened here. After killing Goliath, Morningstar started his return journey. When passing the 5th floor, he completed Naz's commission, grabbed a small bag of fluorescent powder, and then continued to rush to the ground. When Morningstar fell on the ground, it was already past 2 o'clock in the afternoon. Morningstar did not go to exchange for Wallace, but took the fluorescent powder to the Tianqing shop first and completed the commission. "Thank you, Morningstar." Naza took the fluorescent powder from Morningstar and gave the reward to Morningstar, thanking him gently. "You're welcome. I have something else to do, so I'll leave first." Morningstar nodded, then said goodbye to Naza and left the Tianqing shop. When he returned to the library, Morningstar saw that the library was closed and knew that Hestia probably ran out to find her family again today, and he didn't care. After returning to his room and washing up simply, Morningstar set off for the appointment. It was already 3:30 when Morningstar arrived at Rebel Square. The agreed time was 4 o'clock, so Chinching went directly to a nearby open-air stall and ordered a snack to eat, quietly waiting for Aegina's arrival. However, not long after Chinching sat down, Aegina appeared. It seemed that Aegina also wanted to wait here in advance. Looking at Aegina, standing in the center of Rebel Square waiting, Chinching narrowed his eyes slightly, then asked the stall owner to pack a small cake and a cold drink, and walked over quietly. In Rebel Square, Aegina stood with her hands behind her back, looking around. At this time, Aegina was dressed the same as in the original book. A white long-sleeved shirt, a red pleated skirt with black long-leg stockings. The whole person looked young and beautiful, full of vitality, and people couldn't help but brighten their eyes. Even Chinching was no exception. When Chinching met Aegina before, Aegina was wearing the same guild staff clothes, and he had never met Aegina wearing clothes other than guild clothes. Today, Aegina's dress made Chinching couldn't help but look sideways. Chinching came quietly behind Aegina with a small cake and cold drink, and gently patted Aegina's shoulder when Aegina looked around. Aegina was startled. She looked back and saw that it was Chinching and immediately showed an unhappy expression. "You scared me to death, Chinching." Frowning, Aegina said to Chinching, "Here." Chinching did not answer, but handed over the packaged small cake and cold drink. Seeing the exquisite small cake and cold drink in the transparent small box handed over, Aegina was slightly stunned, and the unhappy expression on her face gradually faded. "Thank you, Qinxing." Reaching out to take it, Aegina smiled and thanked. Then, the two began to walk towards the direction of the Tower of Babel. "I know a store with good equipment, but very affordable prices. I'll take you there now," Aegina said while eating small cakes and drinking cold drinks. "Thank you, Aegina." Qinxing nodded and thanked her without refusing. Friends should exchange gifts. Aegina wanted to help him as much as she could, and Qinxing didn't want to spoil Aegina's fun. She would help her back when she had a chance. So Qinxing didn't refuse Aegina's kindness today. The two chatted while walking, and soon they reached the Tower of Babel. Taking the elevator of the Tower of Babel, the two arrived at the floor where the equipment store Aegina mentioned was located. Under the guidance of Aegina, Qinxing came to the equipment store Aegina mentioned. The store was not big, of course, compared with the store Qinxing had been to before. After all, it was selling equipment, and it couldn't be too small, otherwise there would be no place to put the equipment. As soon as he entered the store, Qinxing was attracted by the dazzling array of equipment. Qinxing couldn't see anything about the defensive equipment, but he could tell the weapons at a glance. Although they were all novice weapons, they were all very sophisticated equipment, and were no worse than those sold in the Hephaestus family equipment store that Morningstar had visited before. Moreover, Aegina also said that the price of equipment here is much more affordable than other places. No wonder Aegina brought me here. This place is simply a blessing for new adventurers. Morningstar, pick a set at random. Looking at Morningstar scanning the equipment on the counter of the store, Aegina smiled and said, "Since it is your sponsorship, Aegina, then you can choose it." Morningstar heard it, turned around, and looked at Aegina and said. Aegina was slightly stunned, blinked, and then smiled faintly. "Okay, I'll pick it for you." After that, Aegina began to patrol in front of the equipment cabinet and picked out the equipment she thought was okay. "Morningstar, what kind of equipment do you like?" Aegina asked without looking back while picking. Since it is equipment from Morningstar, it is naturally selected according to Morningstar's preferences. "Light armor, the white kind." Morningstar answered without hesitation. Because of his hair color, Qinxing likes white items very much, including his equipment. He usually wears a white robe in the library. "White light armor? I understand." Aina nodded, and then began to choose carefully. After spending half an hour, Aina finally decided on a set of white light armor. The protection of this set of light armor is much stronger than the one Qinxing bought before. The light armor that Qinxing wore before was not light armor, but rather a few pieces of iron. Whether it was a chest guard, wrist guard, or knee guard, they were all pitifully small, and the coverage of this set is much greater. If there is to be said, it is the difference between the bronze and silver armors. This is it. "Qinxing, go change it and have a look," Aina said to Qinxing, holding the equipment in her hand. Qinxing heard it and did not refuse. He took the equipment and walked towards changing one. Soon Qinxing changed the equipment and walked out of the dressing room. Seeing Qinxing with his new equipment, Aegina's eyes lit up immediately. Heroic and high-spirited is how Qinxing is described now. "It looks very suitable for you. Let's take this set. Is it okay?" Aegina said with a smile. "Well, let's take this set. Thank you very much." Qinxing nodded slightly and thanked him. He was very satisfied with this set. This set of equipment made him look heroic and majestic. He was neither as rough as those strong men, nor as weak as those thin adventurers. It was in line with Qinxing's aesthetics. "Then let's take this set." Aegina nodded, and then went to the cashier to pay for the equipment. As for weapons, Qinxing said that he didn't need weapons, and Aegina didn't force it. After buying the weapons, the two left the equipment store and took the elevator to leave the Tower of Babel. Speaking of which, this is the first time I have received a gift from someone other than my grandfather. "Thank you, Aegina." Walking on the street, Qinxing said with a smile. Hearing this, Aina was slightly startled and then chuckled. "It seems that I got your first time. I always feel that this statement is very controversial." Qinxing looks like an adult, and he can actually hear it. "Qinxing, are you treating me as a child? How could it be?" Qinxing, Chapter 38, playfulness, Morningstar's advice, ability value SSS. To be honest, although Aina did not regard Chinching as a child, it was almost the same. Chinching was younger than her, a new adventurer, and he only had a miserable harvest every day. He was wearing low-quality goods. Even Aina could not bear to see it and could not help but feel pity. Otherwise, she would not have brought Chinching here to buy a better set of defensive equipment today. In Aina's heart, Chinching was a little brother who needed to be pitied and loved. Chinching did not know his position in Aina's heart. Otherwise, she did not know what reaction she would have. Aina, who was standing aside, thought about Chinching's pitiful magic stone exchange situation and couldn't help but feel pity for Chinching in her heart. Thinking about it, Aina couldn't help but put her hand on Chinching's head and gently stroked it, as if to comfort him. And Chinching, the moment Aina's hand was placed on his head, Chinching was stunned. Before Chinching could react, he felt that the palm on his head was actually stroking his hair gently. This made Chinching speechless. His eyes twitched slightly, and he turned to look at Aegina. Although I don't know what you want to do, Aegina, why do I feel like you are coaxing me like a child? Aha! Being stared at by Chinching, Aegina also reacted at this time and withdrew her hand somewhat embarrassedly and covered it up with a laugh. But Chinching didn't intend to let Aegina go. He was already more than 30 years old in 2 lives, but he was actually patted on the head and comforted by Aegina like a child, which made him feel very uncomfortable. Looking at Aegina's shoulder-length hair that was combed very smoothly, Chinching's eyes flashed with a smirk. The next second, Chinching's hand fell on Aegina's hair at a very fast speed, and in an instant, Aegina's hair turned into a chicken coop. After doing it, Chinching ran away. Morningstar was so fast that Aegina didn't react for a while. After a few seconds, Aegina noticed something was wrong with her hair. She reached out and touched it and found that her neatly combed hair was messy. Only then did Aegina react. After pulling her hair together, Aegina quickly chased Morningstar. Morningstar, stop right there! Under the setting sun, 2 elves, half-elves are also elves, ran one after the other, forming a beautiful, foggy picture. After being chased by Aegina for several streets, slowing down and being caught by Aegina, and being beaten up, Morningstar separated from Aegina and returned to the library. It was already night, and Hestia had returned. But Hestia still looked depressed when she returned. It was obvious that Hestia had returned empty-handed again. Morningstar, it's so hard to recruit followers. After seeing Morningstar coming back, Hestia immediately complained to Morningstar. She spent half of her time running outside these days, but she couldn't fool a single new person. Oh no, she couldn't recruit any. The initial stage of establishing a family is the most difficult. Hestia, be more persistent. Morningstar reached out and patted Hestia's shoulder, smiling and encouraging. Well, I will work hard, and then let my first follower go to the dungeon with you. Hestia nodded, reluctantly raised some cleanliness, and said to Morningstar. Hearing this, Morningstar smiled slightly. Hestia is still thinking about this matter, worried that she will be in danger alone in the dungeon, and wants to recruit followers to accompany her. Hey, Hestia, go and wait at the city gate. If you see a boy with white hair and red eyes, stop him and persuade him to join your family. It's absolutely possible. Looking at Hestia's appearance, Chinching pondered for a moment, and then said to Hestia, don't be afraid if you don't send her off. Belcrane, the first family of Hestia in the original book, has very strong potential. As long as he follows the steps, he can grow up quickly. Hestia is his first friend in this world, and she has always been thinking about him. Chinching has a good impression of Hestia. The two of them can be said to have had a showdown before, so Chinching also wants to help Hestia. Originally, he didn't want to interfere with the scene where Hestia and Belcrane met, but thinking about his own existence, it may have triggered a butterfly effect. Hestia may not be able to meet Belcrane like in the original book, so Chinching thought it would be better to let Hestia go directly to the city gate to guard. Once Belcrane shows up, Hestia can just recruit him directly, and it's almost certain that he will be recruited. Is he someone you know? Hestia turned around and asked in surprise. No, I just heard that he's a young man with great potential. Chinching shook his head and said, Really? That's fine. I will go to the city gate to watch when I go out to look for people tomorrow. Hestia nodded and accepted Qinshing's proposal. I'll go in first. Qinshing nodded and walked towards the inner courtyard after saying that. And when Qinshing entered the inner courtyard, Hestia seemed to think of something. Morningsing didn't seem to be wearing equipment just now. Did he come back a long time ago and then go out again? Hestia thought about Qinshing's dress just now and found that it was different from before and couldn't help but murmured in a low voice. But she didn't care too much. Qinshing had his own life, and she wouldn't interfere. The whole person put his chin on the table again, and Hestia emptied his mind again, staring blankly at the front without saying a word. On the other hand, after returning to his room, Qinshing began to update today. Morningstar LV1 Strength, SS 1046 SSS 1222 Durability, SS 1065 SSS 1203 Dexterity, SS 1023 SSS 1212 Agility, SS 1089 SSS 1245 Magic, SS 1100 SSS 1220 Upgrade, Optional Development Abilities, Magician, Swordsman, Berserker Magic Thought Body. Thought Body Clone can separate a clone that can transfer strength to fight Son of Light. Master the element of light, can manipulate light at will, and create light, attribute magic skills Reincarnation Eye. Reincarnation Eye Mode Silver Wheel Reincarnation Explosion Gold Wheel Reincarnation Explosion God of War's Blessing. Weapon Control Master All Kinds of Weapons Superb Combat Skills Chapter 39. Unchanged for 10,000 years. Sure enough, fierce battles are the fastest way to improve in Hui. Looking at the increase in Hui's ability value, Qinshing secretly said, sure enough, the ability value increased by more than 100 a time. This is the first time in the past few days that Qinshing has seen this happen. In the past few days, because of the increase in strength and the small number of monsters born, Qinshing had few opportunities to exercise, so the ability value did not increase much every day, less than 100. Before that, it was more than 100, and once it increased by more than 200 at a time. Now, after a few days, the speed of ability value improvement has finally returned to the first few days. Qinshing is sure that this is because of the monster feast he experienced today. Such a good thing. Qinshing now wishes to have a monster feast several times a day. In this way, maybe 1,000 or 2,000 ability values can be increased in one day. Now the ability value has reached SSS, but I don't know what the numerical limit of SSS is. In the original book, Bell Crane's ability value reached more than 1,500 in SSS, but that is far from the limit. Forget it, don't think too much about this. I guess we will know in a few days. There is a new optional ability in the option of developing ability. As for the Berserker, is it because of my experience today? One person fought dozens of Minotaur alone and did not lose, and even killed all Minotaur. Is it because of this reason? Looking at the grace ability paper in his hand, Qinshing murmured in his heart. Without thinking too much, Qinshing burned the grace paper as usual and then left the room. After making dinner and taking it out, Qinshing ate dinner with Hestia at the cashier and talked about their experiences today. Hey, did you meet those people from Loki's family today? How are they? Are those guys from Loki's family arrogant and domineering? I heard from other adventurers that the people from Loki's family are arrogant. Hearing that Morningstar actually met Finn and others today, Hestia looked at Morningstar with interest and asked. Of course, Morningstar did not say that he went to the middle level. Morningstar did not want to dampen Hestia's enthusiasm for recruiting families now. Don't listen too much to hearsay. Those people are just jealous. Morningstar had a drop of cold sweat on his forehead and said speechlessly, except for Bert, who is a bit foul-mouthed, the people from Loki's family are easy to get along with. Why do those adventurers think that the people from Loki's family are arrogant? In the original book, Porus, the manager of the town of Rivera on the 18th floor of the security floor, always said that the adventurers of large families are arrogant and that the members of Loki's family are arrogant. But Morningstar doesn't think so at all. Really? Then it seems that the guy of Loki's family is managing it quite well. Hearing that the facts were not what she had heard, Hestia immediately raised her eyebrows, very surprised. Well, I don't think it's the Loki family that manages it well. It should be the three giants of Loki's family that manage it well. Loki spends most of his time eating, drinking, having fun, and making trouble everywhere. Morningstar did not agree with Hestia's words. Although Loki is very reliable and can do things at critical moments, the management of the family is managed by Finn and other 3 people. Loki spends most of his time alone, running around and playing everywhere. I know, a fun person, no, a fun guy, right? Hestia raised her hand to answer. Yeah, that's it. Morningstar nodded. I really envy that guy. He doesn't have to do anything and can play as he pleases. Hestia swallowed a mouthful of fried noodles and said enviously, Aren't you quite free now? You could do whatever you want. Morningstar rolled his eyes speechlessly at Hestia's words. Although she was hired as an administrator, she didn't care about Hestia. Hestia had a high degree of freedom. As long as the library was not closed for several days at a time, Chinching would not care. Hestia could do whatever she wanted. It seemed as if he was mistreating her. Sorry. Seeing Chinching's look, Hestia was a little embarrassed and apologized with a dry laugh. By the way, Chinching, the Monster Festival will be held in a week. How about we go out and play together then? After the embarrassment, Hestia began to change the subject. Hearing this, Chinching's hand holding his face paused slightly. Monster Festival? Chinching asked uncertainly. Because of his withdrawn personality and rarely going out before, Chinching really didn't know much about the Monster Festival. Do you remember whether this thing is held once every 6 months or once a year? Yes, the Monster Festival. It will be very lively then. Morningstar, you don't go out much. Let's go to the Monster Festival together. Hestia nodded repeatedly, looking at Morningstar with anticipation in her eyes. But Morningstar did not give an answer immediately, because the Monster Festival reminded Morningstar of something. In the original book, not long after Belle joined Hestia's family, the Monster Festival came. Moreover, a few days before the Monster Festival, the Loki family just returned from an expedition. Putting the time together, Morningstar always felt a little confused. It seems it's completely messed up. The Finn and his expedition that they met today should be the time when they encountered a new type of monster and failed in the original book. In the original book, when the Loki family returned from the failed expedition, Belle had already joined the Hestia family. But now, Belle is nowhere to be seen. Could it be that the existence of this butterfly has caused a hurricane to blow Belle to that corner of the world? This is Hestia's potential family gone just like that. At this moment, Hestia, who had not received an answer, waved her hand in front of Morningstar. Morningstar, what's wrong with you? Talk. Sorry, I was just thinking about something. Let's go out together when a Monster Festival comes. Morningstar came back to his senses, apologized slightly, and then accepted Hestia's invitation. Great, then it's a deal. You can't break the appointment when the time comes. Yeah, absolutely not. Then let's make a pinky promise. Hestia extended her pinky finger to Morningstar. Pink. Morningstar also stretched out her pinky finger and hooked it with Hestia's pinky finger. Pink and hang. Don't change for 10,000 years. Morningstar, are you sure I can live that long? Chapter 40. Grace Upgrade. Level 3 Limit. New drift bottle in the next few days. Chinching went back and forth between the 2 points. He went to the dungeon in the morning and came back to rest at night. In the past few days, Chinching did not encounter the monster feast again, so the ability value increased slowly again. It took 6 days for Chinching to increase his ability value to more than SSS 1900. After returning to the library again, Chinching couldn't wait to start updating. As for why he couldn't wait, it was because Chinching had a hunch that the limit of SSS should be reached, probably within 2000. That is, 1999 is the limit. And with the ability value updated by Chinching yesterday in today's gains, it is estimated that this point will be reached today. Sure enough, after the update, Chinching found that the change in the Grace ability value was exactly as he guessed. Morningstar LV1 Strength, SSS 1956, SSS 1999 Durability, SSS 1942, SSS 1999 Dexterity, SSS 1948, SSS 1999 Agility, SSS 1932, SSS 1999 Magic, SSS 1948, SSS 1999 Upgrade, Optional Development Abilities, Magician, Swordsman, Berserker Magic Thought Body, Thought Body Clone can separate a clone that can transfer strength to fight Son of Light. Master the element of light can manipulate light at will and create light. Attribute magic skills Reincarnation I. Reincarnation I Mode Silver Wheel Reincarnation Explosion Gold Wheel Reincarnation Explosion God of War's Blessing. Weapon Control Master all kinds of weapons, superb fighting skills. Looking at the grace paper in his hand, Morningstar chose Magician without hesitation. This was something Morningstar had decided long ago. The 3 development abilities are not needed by the swordsman Morningstar. Morningstar asked Aina about this thing, which is specifically used to enhance a person's swordsmanship skills, so that he can display more powerful swordsmanship when fighting with the enemy, that is, to enhance combat ability. In this regard, Morningstar has the blessing of the God of War and does not need this ability at all. As long as it is related to weapons, Morningstar does not need it. Because the moment he holds the weapon, Morningstar will master the powerful combat skills related to the weapon in his hand. And he is at the peak of his debut. If the swordsman wants to develop this ability to the extreme, he needs to improve it slowly from I to S, and perhaps the final limit is SSS. But Morningstar's God of War's blessing is directly max, and he does not need to upgrade it slowly. Between Magic and Berserker, Morningstar chose Magic. Morningstar asked Aina about the ability of Berserker, and Aina said she had never heard of it, but Morningstar could guess a little bit. That is, explosive ability which bursts out powerful power at a certain moment, but this ability definitely has a price. Ability with a price, Morningstar does not want. Morningstar doesn't need this ability. If there is no other choice, then Morningstar can only choose this ability. But if there are other options, then Morningstar will not use it. So Morningstar chose Magic. The ability of Magic can enhance the magic power of Morningstar, which is a good choice for Morningstar. Morningstar LV2 Strength, SSS 1999 I0 Durability, SSS 1999 I0 Dexterity, SSS 1999 I0 Agility, SSS 1999 I0 Magic, SSS 1999 I0 Development Ability. Magic I Magic Thought Body. Thought Body Clone can split out a clone that can transfer strength to fight Son of Light. Master the element of light can manipulate light at will and create light. Attribute magic skill Rinnegan. Rinnegan Mode Silver Wheel Reincarnation Explosion Gold Wheel Reincarnation Explosion God of War's Blessing. Weapon Control Master all kinds of weapons superb combat skills. PS. Let me show you the changes in the value of the favor when upgrading. With the upgrade of the favor level, Morningstar clearly felt the changes in his body. Unlike the original protagonist Bell, Morningstar's ability value is really exaggerated. When ordinary adventurers first upgrade, they cannot feel how much their bodies have changed. They will only notice it when they really start to do it. In addition, there will be a temporary deviation between the body and the soul, which will cause the adventurer to have a temporary error in their control of themselves, just like when the Sword Lady Ace in the original book upgraded to LV6. As for Morningstar, Morningstar's ability value reached SSS 1999, which is 1,000 more than the maximum limit of S999 for ordinary adventurers. The 5 ability values together are 5,000. When Bell in the original book upgraded for the first time, his highest ability value also reached SSS 1300 or more, which is completely incomparable to Morningstar. With such a large numerical gap, the improvement brought by Morningstar after upgrading is more terrifying than anyone else. Therefore, as soon as he upgraded, Morningstar clearly felt the change in his strength. When the ability value reached SSS 1900 or more, Morningstar felt that his strength had crossed the level and reached LV3. And how much the strength is improved after the upgrade of Grace is closely related to the ability value before the upgrade. The higher the ability value before the upgrade, the stronger the strength improvement after the upgrade. After upgrading, Chinching can feel that his strength has at least increased by 3 or 4 times, which is very exaggerated. Chinching estimates that his current strength, calculated by the value of Grace, has definitely reached the normal level 3 adventurer's ability value of S or above. In other words, Chinching has just upgraded to level 2, and his strength has reached level 3 and has reached the limit of normal level 3. The strength has increased too much. It seems that I need to adapt well. After burning the grace paper, Chinching stood up and prepared to leave the room. However, every 2 seconds after walking, Chinching's mind sounded a familiar reminder. This made Chinching stunned, because since the last blessing of the god of war, Chinching has not received a new drift bottle. Unexpectedly, after a week, this familiar reminder finally sounded in his mind again. Chapter 41 Super God-Killing Tool. The Holy Grail of the Netherworld. Ding. You have a new drifting bottle. Please check it. After being stunned for a while, Chun-Shing chose to accept it without hesitation and opened it. System, check it, open it. Ding, the drifting bottle has been opened. Congratulations to the host for obtaining the super God-Killing Tool, the Holy Grail of the Netherworld. God-Killing Tool? Remember, it is the prop in the milk-shaking high school, which is said to be able to kill gods and demons. However, the Holy Grail of the Netherworld, I remember this thing is the Holy Grail among the 3 holy relics. Legend has it that it was used in the Last Supper to hold the blood of Jesus. It is a divine tool that can subvert the common sense of life and has the power to reverse or distort life. It can keep people immortal to a certain extent or resurrect the dead. However, why are the 2 words super added in front? Looking at the good things he had just obtained, Chun-Shing was a little surprised. He knew about the Holy Grail of the Netherworld, but why were there 2 more words super in front of it? Is there any difference? Immediately, Chun-Shing checked the annotations of the Holy Grail of the Netherworld. Super God-Destroying Tool, Holy Grail of the Netherworld. The God-Destroying Tool, which has been transformed by a powerful being, has a power that surpasses the original. Ability 1. Pour clean water into the Holy Grail to generate divine blood, and those who drink the divine blood can gain eternal life. Ability 2. The holder can gain immortality and will not die as long as the magic power is not exhausted. Ability 3. The holder can consume a large amount of magic power to revive the dead, even gods, and even if there is no body left, as long as there is a clear understanding of the dead, they can be resurrected. Ability 4. Self-resurrection. This is a passive ability. The holder has the ability to revive 3 times, which will be automatically triggered when dying. Looking at this explanation, Chun-Shing was stunned. Good guy, this is not the original. Why is there a super word in front of it? It turned out that it was transformed by a being more powerful than the God of the Bible, making its performance far exceed the original God-destroying tool. Moreover, because it has been transformed, the ability has been fixed, and it no longer needs to use the spiritual food of the magical owner as evolutionary resources to develop forbidden hands. Looking at the 4 abilities that appeared in the annotation, Chun-Shing narrowed his eyes slightly. Clear water turns into divine blood, and it is divine blood that can make people immortal. In this way, won't the people around him be able to live forever with him in the future? Eternal life does not mean immortality. That is, they will not be beaten to death. The second ability is related to himself. As long as the magic power is sufficient and not exhausted, then he will be immortal. In other words, as long as he carries enough potions to restore magic power, then he will be immortal. The third one is even more outrageous. Not only can he revive gods, but he can even revive the dead as long as he has enough knowledge of them. But he needs to consume a lot of magic power. Good guy, this ability is really terrifying. Only knowledge can be resurrected. That is to say, even if he has died for thousands or tens of thousands of years, as long as he has enough knowledge of him, he can revive this person. This ability is simply against the sky. And the fourth one is the most important, self-resurrection, which means that Chun-Shing has 3 resurrection coins, and even if he dies, he can be resurrected. The immortal ability will also run out of magic power and die. I really got something incredible. After learning about the ability of the super God-destroying tool, the Holy Grail of the underworld, Chun-Shing took a deep breath and murmured in his heart. Then, Chun-Shing took another step and left the room. Speaking of which, tomorrow is the Monster Festival. I don't know if Hestia has found her first family. Chun-Shing muttered as he walked outside. Hestia was not in the library again today. She ran out to find her family and has not returned yet. Chinching went to the kitchen to prepare a simple dinner for himself. After a simple meal, he got up and left the library and walked towards the Tianqing shop. Now that he has the super god-destroying tool, the holy grail of the underworld, he needs to prepare more potions to restore magic power. The holy grail of the underworld is a life-saving thing, so he needs to prepare more. This time, Chinching plans to order 100 potions to restore magic power from Naza. For supplies, Chinching can bring as much as he wants. Because Chinching has a system space, he can put as much as he wants. This is also the reason why Chinching has never needed supporters. Chinching may not be able to carry 100 potions by himself, but Chinching can put the potions in the system space and take them out when needed. After walking for more than 20 minutes, Chinching arrived at the Tianqing store. At this time, Mai and Naza had not closed the store yet, so Chinching walked in directly. Chinching. In the store, Mai was working hard and Naza was sitting at the counter. After Chinching came in, she noticed Chinching the first time, and her eyes were a little happy. Chinching is now a big customer of their Tianqing store, and Naza looks forward to Chinching coming every day, because Chinching buys a lot of potions every time he comes. Good evening, Chinching. Mai heard Naza's words and turned around to greet Chinching. Good evening, Mai and Naza. Chinching nodded and replied. Mai nodded, then turned back again and continued to make his own potion. Chinching didn't care and walked to Naza. Chinching comes so late? Looking at Chinching, Naza asked with a smile. These days, Chinching has come to replenish potions very early, and today is the first time he has come so late. Today's order is bigger than before. Are you happy? Chinching nodded, explained a little, and then smiled and said the purpose of his visit. As soon as these words came out, Naza's eyes suddenly flashed with excitement, and Mai, who was making potions behind Naza, also paused. The next second, Chinching experienced the reception more than a week ago again. Naza quickly arranged the whole person to sit on the sofa inside. In front of him, on the coffee table, fruits and drinks were all available. Naza stood in front of Chinching with a serious face, holding a small notebook in one hand and a pen in the other, looking like she was taking notes. Chinching, how many potions do you need today? Chinching, 100 potions to restore magic power. Naza, Chapter 42 Bell. Showdown after ordering 100 potions to restore magic power at Tianqing shop. Chinching left. However, Tianqing shop didn't have so many potions at the moment, so Chinching only took 40. Naza and Mai said they would make the remaining 60 as soon as possible and let Chinching come back to pick them up. After completing the order of magic potions, Chinching went straight back to the library. When he returned to the library, Hestia had already returned. However, Hestia's situation was a little strange. What's wrong? Chinching asked with concern, looking at Hestia sitting in front of the counter with her hands on the counter and her chin resting. Hestia's current appearance did not look like the previous wilted look, but gave Chinching a confused feeling. Hey, Chinching, you told me before that I should go to the city gate to find a boy with white hair and red eyes, right? Hestia looked over and said to Chinching in a tone of confirmation. Yeah, found it. Morningstar nodded, and then seemed to think of something, slightly surprised. Well, the person with white hair and red eyes was found, and he also joined my family, but he is a little different. Hestia heard this, hesitated, but finally nodded. Since it is found, and it has joined your family, isn't that a good thing? Why are you like this? Also, where's your family? Why can't I see it? Hestia's look made Morningstar a little puzzled. Since Belle Crane was found, isn't that a good thing? With Belle Crane, Hestia's family will rise soon. After all, is a cheating protagonist. However, I didn't bring the child here and placed him in the underground church where I lived before. This is your place after all. You can't bring anyone here to live casually. Although he has never seen the main god of Morningstar, Morningstar now lives here. It can be said that this is already the residence and base camp of Lucifer's family where Morningstar is. I live here because I am an employee here, so it's okay. But I also place my recruited family here, which is over the line. Although she's not very smart, she still knows this kind of thing. But it doesn't matter. The important thing is that the child is not a boy, as you said, but a girl named Belle Crane. Morningstar, Is she the talented adventurer you told me about? Hestia shook her head and said with confusion. As soon as this was said, it was Morningstar's turn to have a puzzled expression on his face. Belle Crane? The protagonist has been feminized? The protagonist's name is one letter different, and the gender is reversed. Both the name and the gender have become female. What else can this be if not feminization? I didn't expect that I would actually encounter such a thing as feminization. It should be her. Her potential should be very good. If she is well trained, she will definitely grow up quickly. After being stunned for a moment, Morningstar said with a smile, Okay, I believe you. Since Belle has been recruited, I will also be responsible and be a diligent main god. Hestia nodded and said with a smile, Well, keep going, Hestia. Morningstar smiled and nodded, encouraging. Thank you. Morningstar, are you hiding something from me? Hestia thanked him, but then her face became hesitant. After a while, she slowly spoke and confirmed with Morningstar. Why do you think so? Chinching was a little surprised and curious when she heard it. Intuition, I always feel that, Chinching, you have hidden a lot of things from me. Hestia frowned and said, These days, she always felt that something was strange, but she just couldn't feel where it was. But she knew that the source of her strangeness was Chinching. This doubt has been in her heart for several days, and today she finally asked Chinching. I didn't expect that, Hestia. Your intuition is quite sensitive. Well, it's okay. I planned to tell you the matter after you recruited the family. Now that you have recruited the family, I can also tell you the matter. Chinching was a little surprised when he heard it, surprised at Hestia's intuition. The reason why he kept it a secret from Hestia was that he didn't want to dampen Hestia's enthusiasm for recruiting the family. But now Hestia has already recruited the protagonist. Oh no. Now, the feminized protagonist, into the family, and there is no need to worry about hitting Hestia and making her give up recruiting the family. What is it? Tell me quickly. Tell me quickly. Hestia heard this and was extremely anxious, urging her again and again. This is very shocking. You have to be mentally prepared. Morningstar glanced at Hestia and gave Hestia a shot of vaccination in advance. Yet tell me, I'm ready. Hestia nodded in response. My talent is very strong, and my grace improves very quickly. Although I have only been an adventurer for more than 10 days, I've already upgraded. I wanted to share this joy with you a long time ago. But at that time you told me that you would find a family again, and you would let the family act with me after you found them. I was worried that my upgrade speed was too fast, and by the time you found the family, you would have already upgraded. I was afraid that it would dampen your enthusiasm, so I didn't tell you. Now that you have found the family, I don't have to worry about dampening you. Plus, I had just upgraded, so I told you about it. Morningstar explained the matter in one breath. After listening to what Morningstar said, Hestia, who was full of anxiety, froze. She tried to speed up her recruitment of family members as much as possible because she was worried that Morningstar was alone and was afraid that Morningstar would be in trouble in the dungeon. So she wanted to find a companion for Morningstar. Unexpectedly, Morningstar's situation was exactly the opposite. Morningstar's talent was so terrifying that he had upgraded in just more than 10 days. This means that Morningstar would not be in danger in the dungeon at all. After being stunned, Hestia reacted. Didn't she recruit a family just to give Morningstar a companion, so that they could help each other when in danger? Now that Morningstar is so strong, don't we have to worry about Morningstar's safety? Isn't this a good thing? Congratulations, Morningstar. After sorting out her thoughts, Hestia put on a faint smile on her face and congratulated Morningstar sincerely. Hestia was full of Morningstar's thoughts and didn't notice that the new family members she recruited were in the same situation as Morningstar, who she was worried about before. It was very dangerous to be alone in the dungeon. Well, thank you, Hestia. Morningstar smiled and thanked. You upgraded so quickly, it will definitely cause a sensation in the whole of Oreo if it gets out. Hestia nodded, and then she thought of something. Her eyes flashed, and her tone was full of expectation. Well, I think so. Chun-Xing was slightly stunned when he heard this, and then he began to imagine what would happen to Oreo after he informed the guild of the upgrade. Chapter 43. The gradually sublimated relationship Morningstar is not going to hide his own improvement speed. He concealed it before because he didn't want to hit Hestia. But now Hestia has recruited the family and has not been hit, which is good. The other reason is because of Aegina. Morningstar doesn't want Aegina to worry too much. However, now that Morningstar has upgraded, no matter how much you want to hide it, it's over. Morningstar can't just not register. That will only make things more troublesome. Now that Morningstar has upgraded, Aegina may feel scared after knowing it, but she doesn't have to worry about her safety in the future. It's better to kill the enemy with a quick sword. As for whether such a fast upgrade will be targeted, as far as Morningstar knows, many gods in Oreo are unreliable, and they just like to watch the fun when encountering some special things. Even if they know that Morningstar is such a monster, most gods are just interested, and at most stand in the distance and watch.
No more novels? Take part in the voting. The most requested novels and those with the most likes will be chosen for publication on euroaudiobooks.com. There, I can upload as much as I want without the risk of receiving a strike. Our 18 novels and other content that exceed what is morally acceptable are only published on Patreon or the free novels page. Remember, the site is funded by donations on Ko-fi and Patreon memberships.